Uyunglele, touchdown Ross! They go with a run at 33, and that's blown up right at the point. John Ridgway.
Four-man front for the Dogs, drifting back in coverage. There comes the pressure. Quay Walker, shot out of a cannon.
Bennett, near side, pass is caught. George Pickens.
One carry and lost a yard in his first one. They bank it to him, and smothering the quarterback is Tyreek Smith.
Welcome, one and all, to Draft on Tap. My name is Aldo Gandia, and what a great day here at the Bar Room. It started at 9 a.m. Central with Greg Gabriel evaluating 13 or 14 wide receivers and having some great talk about the entire process of scouting. So that show is available on demand. You should really make some time to watch and listen to all these shows we have this weekend. That was followed up at 2 p.m. with Crosstown Crosstalk. Vinny Parisi talked to Chuck Garfien, the White Sox pre- and post-game host, and then he also had David Wills, who is a radio broadcaster for the Tampa Bay Rays. He used to work here in Chicago at WMVP Radio, and so he's a big White Sox fan. So a lot of White Sox talk on this issue of Crosstown Crosstalk, which again is available on demand. And right now, we're going to give you a live presentation of Draft on Tap, and it stars this man, Danny Shimon. Danny, how are you?
I am doing great, Aldo. I can't believe tomorrow was April 1st, which is not only April Fool's Day, but also officially starts draft month. And we are less than 30 days, less than 31 days, calendar days from the start of the NFL draft. So, man, the offseason is flying here. So it seems like every other day there's a big headline at the NFL that kind of takes all the glamour, takes all the attention away from the draft. But, turn around, there's draft day is coming up. So get ready, guys.
Yeah, we are getting ready. That's why I'm shaking my boots. We got so much work to do. But Danny, Niel Stopchinski is in here to help with all that work. Neil, how are you, my man?
What is going on, guys? Coming to you live today from Studio 1A, switching things up a bit. Gotta keep you on your toes.
See, I got a little change there in your background. I got a little. Was that a sombrero there in the corner? That little sombrero.
There's a sombrero in the corner. We are a month away from Cinco de Mayo, so
wow,
got to ramp up the party vibes a little bit.
Prepared here.
Got to ramp up the party vibes. That's right.
All right.
That's right.
We have to do a podcast on all the great Chicago hotspots because you know quite a few of them, huh?
Yeah, man. You know what? Me and Aubrey were just at the Rambler Kitchen and Tap last night for World Cup qualifying, and the main meetup spot. Good times, a bunch of people amped up about soccer. A bunch of hooligans. We'd get together, take shots, and slap hands and sing songs. I mean, it's good stuff.
Yeah, cool. Hey, we already got our first question. Niel wants to know what you guys think of the new safety that was signed by the Chicago Bears, the former Tennessee Titan, Krushank. I'm going to mispronounce that name for the first month that he's on the team. Boy, the guy can hit, I'll tell you that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was going to tell you, although you finally got your enforcer in that defensive secondary. You got your safety that's going to come downhill and hit. And he's a good size safety, but 6'1", 6'2", runs a 4.40 coming out of Arizona. The kid predominantly has been playing some nickel packages for Titans or some specialty roles for Tennessee. But he's a guy that coming out of Arizona, he was a guy that was like known for his ability, his aggressiveness, in the run game, and also again that 4.4 speed. So we'll see if he's probably be thrown into the mix there with obviously with DHC and then Eddie Jackson there for that the two starting safety positions there. I'm curious if they're going to be adding another kid now via the draft. So I mean, we've joked here with Niel in terms of he wants to add a safety. So I think that's is a position you should bring in someone. I just curious now with this. And again, the kid is a pretty damn good special teams player as well. So he just could be brought in just to be a special teams guy. But I think they have a role probably in mind for him. So we'll see how that breaks down and see if they're going to add to that group via the draft.
Yeah, word is that they were bringing him in for special teams and backup safety duties, but I'm not so sure about that, man. He's kind of a late bloomer, type of kid. Came from Arizona. The passing around on social media right now show this kid to be a explosive physical force that you would love to have at strong safety. So I would not surprise Poles looks at this guy as his potential starting safety for 2022 here.
Cool.
You guys know how much I love DeAndre Houston-Carson. I think he should be given every opportunity to start this year. So hopefully that is going to be the case. And I love to see a combination of DHC and then Eddie Jackson, and with this kid backing him up, and then possibly even a rookie, possibly a guy in the third or later rounds. The one thing curious, from what we talked about, what I heard Ryan Poles say this past week at the owners meetings, and something that you and I, Aldo and Niel as well, have talked about is the possibility of the Bears trading down. And I think he laid a little bit of a hint there in terms of that Khalil Mack trade that gave him a pick. He said that got him again in that top 50 in this draft that's pretty deep in the middle rounds, but also gave him an opportunity to add more picks, he said. So that's going to be a pick that I feel is going to be up there for auction, for the highest bidder. And I think, either one of those second round picks, if they see some depth at a position where they're looking to target with one of those two picks, they can easily drop down, a round or two or a couple of slots or a round possibly, and just garner more picks. This draft is, again, we've said it multiple times, the depth of this draft is in the middle rounds. Day 2 and day 3 is where you're going to see a lot of guys come out of this draft that are going to be, contributors, and if not even starters, initially right away.
Mm-hmm.
There's some noise going around that perhaps Larry Ogunjobi might be signing with the Bears. That's a rumor that's been out there. If it happens, Greg Gabriel said that apparently the issue was that it wasn't only the ankle that was injured, but he has plantar fasciitis. I think
Fasciitis.
it's pronounced.
Oh shit! I have fasciitis, man. That's a bitch, dude. I'm not gonna even sugarcoat it. I have plantar fasciitis. It hits me about 3 or 4 times a year. I can't walk, and it legitimately sucks. I spend my entire days with a softball or baseball underneath my foot, rolling my foot around while I'm trying to do work. And then the dog has to go outside, and I'm gimping my ass down the hallway trying to take him outside, and I can't move very fast at all, like an old man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I brought up when they first rejected the contract, when he failed the physicals. Why not try and bring it back for a lesser term, maybe a 1-year contract with an option or whatever. Just not give him the full boat guaranteed money. Give him some of that guaranteed money for a 1-year deal and make him see what he does. Because you had him now to the collection of Justin Jones, and then also with Mario Edwards, and now we're talking Angelo Black. So now we're talking about a defensive tackle group that you can rotate in there. You got guys both that can rush a passer with Edwards and Ogunjobi, and then you got guys that are pretty good run stuffers with Blackson and Jones. I like that combination. So if they can make it work, bring them in. Let's go for it.
You know what drives me crazy? Nobody's talking about Angelo Blackson at all.
Yeah, that guy. Other than some bonehead plays where he lost his cool,
it's like he's he's very athletic.
Yeah,
nobody talks about him. It's like
that guy's a pretty damn good player.
Yeah, I frankly thought that he wasn't on a team anymore, but he did sign a 2-year contract, so he should be on this roster. So that's good news. Anything from the owners' meeting that Ryan Poles or Matt Eberflus said that caught your ear and you want to chat about before we get into our player evaluations?
For me, yeah. I mean, one thing I noticed, and this is the trend, right? In these days, is in terms of these defensive, systems, teams being in nickel predominantly most of the time. And I think the topic came up when we are talking about the linebacker position, right? And he talked about, with Morrow, is he going to be a middle linebacker? Are you going to move Roquan to weak side? And we haven't decided yet. This is Coach Eberflus saying this, and he said that we're going to be in our nickel position, meaning we're going to have 5 defensive backs probably in the game 85% of the time. That was usually trending within 60, 70%, but now it's like 85% of the time. And he goes, his strong side linebacker is going to be in 15% of the plays. It's going to have to be able to back up the inside linebacker position. So we have, Niel and I have kind of earmarked the linebacker as a high priority need. It still could be. And if they, they make a trade, get extra picks, and they might be able to target one of those linebackers, those athletic linebackers in that, day 2, day 3 area. But it doesn't seem like they're, really worried. Now, obviously, you need depth. You need backup for Morrow and Roquan Smith. So that's where a rookie or another veteran maybe off the street can come in and be that third linebacker. But that was curious where he said 85% of the time they're going to be in their nickel or dime package. And I think that just tells you what type of system they're going to have here.
It says a lot about the league too.
Yeah. What about the rule change? I'm sorry, Niel, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think it says a lot about the league too, to where when we were all kids, you thought about going dime package when it's late in the game. If it's third long, if teams are passing to try and get back into the mix. But shit, now you have teams going nickel and dime as base packages now. It just kind of like revamps your whole idea of what a defense actually looks like.
Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, when Pinky Gentry was in the game, that's when we went dime package, or the defense went dime package, and when Pinky was in there. But if he wasn't in there, it was just base defense, 4-3.
Good old number
29.
29, yeah.
Yep.
What about the rule change overtime? So now in playoffs only, each team will get a possession unless the defense goes out there and scores a safety on the first possession. But other than that, though, they are guaranteed 2 possessions. What do you guys think about the rule?
So is it? I thought it was if the team who gets the ball first scores and then goes for 2 and scores a 2-point conversion. I thought that ended the game, or do they still get the other team still gets the ball? In the
playoffs, both teams get the ball.
Oh, gotcha.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's either way. I don't think anyone's going to be happy, right? Because if a defense is going to give up a touchdown, and the only thing is, I've heard a little bit of a twist to this is like now the team deferring or not getting the ball first might have a little bit of an advantage. And the way it was explained was, if the team gets the ball first, they go and score. All right, so now the other team knows they gotta go for a touchdown, right? They have to score. Mm-hmm. So now they're going to go for on all 4 downs, as opposed to the other team, if they're 3rd and 20 at their 40-yard line, they're probably going to punt the ball, right? And now, as opposed to the other team, now they know they're down to score. They're gonna have 4 downs basically to get that first down. So it's a little bit of a different twist. I didn't really think of it that way, but as long as both teams get the hands on the ball, I think that's something that I think all the fans want. I think this all stems obviously from that Buffalo KC game this past playoff. So but to me in that game, dude, if Buffalo, if you can't stop KC from scoring with 13 seconds, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve to win that game.
Yeah. I like the idea of both teams getting their hands on the ball for at least 1 possession, just simply because the rules have changed so much in favor of offenses that to expect the defense to stop the offense on 1 possession in overtime in a critical spot like that, the playoffs, is a little out of hand. Now, my way to address the problem is just extend the 4th quarter. So if the Lions score with a minute to go and they tie the game and now the Bears have the ball, the game continues until there's sudden death. And so you might have a 4th quarter that is 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, but you will avoid the coin flip. You will avoid the kickoff. And to me, that's just a better way to handle it. But nobody has even mentioned that.
I like the college thing where maybe not get the ball at 25, maybe get the ball at the 50-yard line, and each one go back and forth.
That's I don't know.
I mean, this isn't extra innings, man. Like, you got to actually insert an element of real football into the mix. Like, you don't just get the ball at the 50-yard line, and that's a gift.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and play real football. Let's continue the actual game. I mean, to me, what kind of chaps my ass is that they only made the rule for playoff for the playoff. Like, why don't we have this for the season? I mean, surely the playoff rule would affect regular season games. For I mean, it's a minute number of games that actually go to overtime in the regular season, but still. Having one rule for the playoffs and not having the same rule for the regular season just seems kind of, ass backwards to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, you should if you're going to make it, implement it throughout the season and then in playoffs. If you're just going to, I mean, obviously they're going to see how it goes in the playoffs, and they're probably going to implement it eventually into the regular season. But just to this, half-ass way of doing it. Yeah, I agree with Neil. I'm not a fan of that part.
Yeah, neither am I. All right, guys, why don't we start our player evaluations? We're going to start with Niel Stopchinski talking about Tariq Woolen, somebody we talked about last week. We didn't get a chance to get all of Neil's thoughts on that. So, Neil, why don't you bat lead off?
So, Tariq Woolen, is it Darian? Or am I getting the name wrong? Or our guy that we had on last week from Draft Network?
Damian.
Darian.
Yeah.
Sometimes my brain doesn't quite work right. But, Damon last week, and he had, Tariq Woolen on as one of our 2 picks we were going to make in the second round mock draft. And he talked, at length about it. And the thing about it is I question him on how much of a developmental prospect he is. And to me, typically you don't take highly developmental prospects in second, third round. Day two guys aren't developmental guys. Day two guys are guys that are coming and making immediate impact. I thought day four or day three, round 4 or 5 would be an appropriate place where Tariq Woolen would fall, given his rawness, given his like it's you look what he did at the combine. He came in at 6'041", 205. Big long arms at 33, 5'8", 79-inch wingspan. Ran one of the fastest 40s in recent memory at 4.26 and jumped 42-inch on the vert. I mean, all those athletic traits that he has would say, holy shit, like, and especially with that size, that would make you say that's a guy that need to draft high. And I think, there are, some scouts, there are some directors, there are some, GMs that may get caught up in that, overthinking of things. But I think that when Cooler has prevailed, we have as a guy with great size, with great athletic ability, that kind of has free traits, but isn't refined whatsoever. And it's going to take a few years. Right. And so, once you pull up the highlights, he does make some plays. He shows physicality, he shows range, he shows all these different types of things. If you look into his background, he's a track kid. He ran 100 meters to 200 meters, a 4x4 relay, where I think he was an anchor. This past offseason, he received invites to the Senior Bowl, the East-West game, the NFLPA game. So he had all this interest of all these these postseason contests and events and things. So teams can get a look at him. He only played in secondary for 2 years. He was a wide receiver convert, but with the time that he had playing at the level that he played in Conference USA, honorable mention All Conference in 2021. If you look at how many games he started, it's all across the board in terms of where, right? So 16 cornerback, 6 starts at wide receiver. Again, freak athlete as raw with size. The 2 games that I watched on him were the Illinois and the Western Kentucky game where they went in and competed for the Conference USA championship. To me, like, he has continued to develop in coverage. He doesn't have the snappy hips as some quicker guys do. It's concerning to me that he's rarely getting his head around to attack the ball. One of those clips in that highlight, he's cut. Actually, there's multiple clips in that highlight where he makes on the ball. He gets really handsy. He doesn't get his head around. Those are things that would get him flagged at the next level if he gets too aggressive about it. In many cases, his physical traits allow him to make plays. But he's got to be better at locating and tracking the ball so as to not leave plays on the field, draw penalties, those types of things. I think he does a good job of being on the hip with the receiver. It's easy for him to stay in stride with his speed, length, and all those types of things. His physical traits, athletic traits. He has some natural technique at press, actually, given, again, the traits, his length, his strength. He stays really balanced at jamming the wide receiver off the ball, using his great arm length. But, again, like, he got badly beat in the conference championship game. In the first quarter of that game, the Western Kentucky receiver, he took his press, easily broke him, and, went to the house, leaving, Woolen in the dust. And so those are some things that are concerning. A series or 2 later, he's targeted again. He's right there with the receiver, but, pulling on his jersey, not getting his head around, doing all his disciplined, unrefined, raw types of things. And, those aren't just things that show up in flashes. Those are things that show up as consistencies, right? So, he's just not there yet to me. Attacking the run, he, to me, I felt he lacked explosion, physicality, kind of meanders his way to the ball, attempts to wrap up, doesn't bring any thump really. For a size 6'4 plus, 200 plus, you would imagine a guy wanting to exert his force, exert his explosion, but he didn't do that. Kind of slow to react. The instincts and reaction time just aren't there on run recognition. Kind of delays a little bit in breaking and spiking to the ball. In terms of the wide receiver to corner conversion, they always say, there's a reason why you're playing DB now is because you can't catch. And, as a former wide receiver, it bothered me that, he drops easy picks. There was a moment in that Illinois game, they're up 7, time's winding down the game, and there's a pick that he should easily come down with and go the opposite way with, but he drops the money. So, there's a lot of things that kind of concern you a little bit. As a guy that still needs to continue to prove himself more or less, he sat out the bowl game. He didn't do all the tests at the combine. So, I mean, other, non-competitive red flags kind of come up to me. So, when last week we were talking about him potentially, last week when Damian's, talking about potentially him being a day 2, second round pick, I'm just sitting there thinking, man, I'm not sure if I want this guy in day 2, because we need a guy to come in right away, especially now that we're looking at playing 5-6 DBs, in base sets. You need a guy to come in and compete immediately, and I just don't think he's that guy.
Danny, you spoke at length about him last week. Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I echo a lot of the things that Niel was saying, but this is a kid that, I first caught at the Senior Bowl, obviously, and then Avi just kind of went there from the Senior Bowl, then followed him at the combine, and he just lit up the combine, and his combination of size and speed is just terrific, outstanding. Touched on it, 6'4", 205, 33 plus inch arm length. And you see that in his coverage, his ability. He's a press cover corner for me. He's a guy that can get up there, can get his hands on a receiver, and then he can, open his hips, and he can run stride for stride with the receiver downfield. Does a great job with that length of being able to kind of, cover the vision of the receiver and then make a play on the football. Niel was right. He's a developmental kid, though. He's a guy that's only been playing a position for 2 years, was a former converted receiver. Doesn't always show, downfield coverage awareness, doesn't always turn his head and look at the football. And that's a pet peeve for me, for my cornerbacks. So you got to be able to turn around and look for the ball. Cause as we've seen, on Sundays, right. At least if you're making an attempt to turn around and look, you will not draw the flag, even if you're a little bit handsy, a little reachy. And again, the guy's still developing. So, he's going to feel at times that he needs to, kind of get a little bit more grabby with the receiver. And you see that on his tape as well. But you also see some of the exciting stuff. Again, that 4.26 speed. There's times I saw, I believe it was a Western Kentucky game where he guessed wrong and the receiver kind of beat him across his face, but he's got the recovery speed to be able to get back into position to be able to either make a tackle right away or limit the gain in terms of what the receiver does after the catch. So, there are things on tape that the more you watch of this kid, the more you're going to like him, the more he entices you. Again, that combination is just really, really intriguing. But yeah, the position the Bears are in right now, the Bears need a guy that's going to be able to come in and possibly even start. Ryan Poles touched on it at the owners meeting that maybe that money that they allocated to Ryan Bates, who ended up going back to Buffalo, might now go to cornerback. So we'll see if they bring in a veteran to bring in and kind of, start opposite of Jalen Johnson. If that is accomplished via free agency, a guy is still out there, Stephon Gilmore. I know a veteran up there in age, but just to name it, throw out there here, Stephon Gilmore still out there and not signed currently. But you bring a guy like that can take over the other side. Now you can take a gamble on a kid like this, on his traits, on his tools, second, third round. But yeah, to take it at pick 39 or 48, where you expect those guys to come in and start day one and be ready, game starters. I'm not saying Tariq Woolen won't be a starter. I'm not saying he won't eventually become, one of your best 11 defenders, but I expect him to be that next September for a guy that's just been doing it for 2 years at a school that, even though they produced some pretty damn good NFL players recently, it might be a little bit too much of a reach for me.
Yeah. And, let's not forget, for everybody watching, when you have a guy that goes in round 2, you're talking about 8 figures worth of guaranteed cash for that draft pick. And for guys that aren't developed, that you have to put a lot of work to get them to where they need to be, that's way risky of investment. I'm not sure what the guaranteed money is now. It was right around 10 million like 3 years ago. I haven't looked it up recently. But you're talking about like 10 million guaranteed to a guy that raw as hell. Granted, he has all the athletic traits, physical traits, all these different types of tools. Things that kind of get you giddy a little bit when you look at it on paper. But shit, man, if he doesn't reach the level to where he needs to be, that's 10 million down the drain, and that you're not getting that back.
Yeah,
that's what scares me.
I'll tell you, one of the things about this draft, it's got a lot of positions that are very deep, but I get the sense though that at least for the Bears' positions of need other than wide receiver is that in the second round there's a lot of guys that have great traits who project as eventual starters, but there aren't a lot of guys at cornerback, at offensive line who are plug and play players. That's the feeling that I've been getting as I do my research and started to do my mocks and so forth. I can find a starting wide receiver and be confident about it in the third, even fourth round. but offensive line, cornerback, I don't know. I just feel like whoever you pick there is going to be a developmental player, and for you to be guaranteed that this guy can start day one, game one, is a little out there for me. You guys feel the same way?
Well, it depends on what the run goes in the first round, right? So I think on interior offensive linemen, I think you can get solid starters in the second or third round in this draft. Interior guys, centers, guards. But if you're talking about tackles, yeah, if you gotta go tackles, you gotta shoot your shot early on in the second round. Hopefully, one of those guys drops to you, and then you get a guy that can come in and start. That's why I keep hoping that, obviously they missed on Teron Armstead. I hope they bring in a veteran. Dwayne Brown's still out there. I know he's up there in age, but if you bring this guy in for a year or two, he can at least man that position, give you some decent play there at left tackle. Well, then you can go and get a kid maybe in the fourth or fifth round, right? A guy that can develop behind a Dwayne Brown, and eventually when he's ready to move on, you can plug this kid in. That's what my hope is in terms of what they do, but we'll see how that plans out. But yeah, I mean, if you're hoping for a starting left tackle, you're gonna have to keep your fingers crossed, toes crossed, every single part of your body crossed, that one of these guys that falls to them in the second round, they can go ahead and grab them, or maybe even move up and get them. But I doubt they're gonna move up and get them. I think if anything, probably going to drop down and get some more picks here. So we'll see how it goes. But corner is another position that there could be a run towards the end of the first round. There are a couple players here we're going to touch on tonight that, have been, tabbed as first round guys, but we've seen guys drop out of that first round because there's a run either on tackles or on offensive linemen, defensive edge rushers is going to be a position that's going to be a big run here. I think receivers there's going to be a big run in receivers here toward the tail end of that first round, and I think we're going to see some defensive players possibly be dropped down to the Bears in that top of the second round. So we'll touch on that when some of these players that come up here later on in the show. But guys that you guys are probably going to say, well, this guy's going in the first round. You never know, guys. Players drop out of there because there are these certain runs that happen in that first round that no one predicts, and it occurs, or guys sneak into the first round that no one saw coming, right? And then the guys get pushed down the board. So,
yeah, good point. All right, let's talk wide receivers now. Danny, your guy.
We lost Aldo.
Oh,
Aldo. Uh-oh.
Maestro, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, you're frozen.
Got him.
You're frozen.
Back. We got him back.
Now you're back. You're back now.
So I was introducing Bo Melton to you. So take it away, Danny.
Yeah, so I'm always out there looking for receivers. I know you guys are freaking out. We need receivers, and I agree. We need receivers, and I just wanted to kind of show you the depth of this draft here in terms of receivers. We touched on some of these guys that are going to go in the first round. We touched on guys that could be, top of that second round, where we're going to be earmarking for as well. But this is a kid here, Bo Melton, that out of Rutgers that I just started watching when I saw him at the Senior Bowl. Again, that's a great place, a great showcase for some of these players that you don't watch year round to kind of stick out, and that's what he did. We talked about Tariq Woolen doing the same thing earlier on at cornerback. Bo Melton was a guy that came in, and he's really just a twitched up receiver. And the one thing, and this is a guy that you're probably going to get probably day 3, possibility he's going to be there 4th round, 5th round area. So again, we're talking about, Mooney came in the 5th round. This is a guy that I think has the ability to come in and maybe contribute maybe as a 3rd receiver and then eventually move his way up the depth chart to be a number 2 receiver or something like that. So Aldo, I want you to go ahead and roll the tape on Bo Melton here. I want to show you some of this quick twitch, this burst of this kid here. Again, burst acceleration off the line of scrimmage is what I want to highlight here. Eats up the defensive back's cushion here in coverage, and then uses his head and body to go ahead and lean, get the DB to open up his hips, and he gets to the outside, spins him around, and tracks the ball, goes up, makes a nice play downfield. So this is what I'm talking about here. His quickness, his twitchiness off the line of scrimmage, explodes off there, and then shows here ability to go up and make a play on a ball that's not perfectly thrown. Actually, if that ball was a nice, clean throw, that's probably a touchdown, guys. The way he spun around that corner with his slight head twitch and a jab step to the outside, and then just cut across his face mask real quick. The guy's in no man's land right now. And then again, perfect throw. This is a long touchdown here to Melton. So that's what you see on this kid on his tape is just that explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. This next clip here, again, this is just a blown coverage by the defense. But what I do want to point out to you is Melton's awareness in terms of where he is in the end zone. And then look how he does that toe drag swag, we like to call it, right? Gets both feet in bounds for a touchdown. This is an NFL type catch. Obviously, college, you see one toe and 1 foot in bounds. He does both. So this is what I like to see. Guys already kind of practicing at a next level kind of traits here. So, again, blown coverage. I understand he didn't do anything special, But at the end here, watch him just kind of know where he's at the end zone, make sure he gets both feet down, lays off of the football, touchdown. Those are the kind of plays you kind of see this kid make here. And again, he played for Rutgers, so a lot of times, we never heard of this guy, but you just put on his tape and you see the excitement that this kid could potentially can bring to an offense. This here is third clip. Next one, we're talking about, this guy can be a threat here on slip screens and in the short game. Watch here with his speed, his burst, his acceleration. He just catches the ball, and then now you see him just quickly turn upfield, get that first down, and eventually hurl over the defender, showing that explosiveness in his lower body. He had a 38-inch vertical at the combine, ran a 4.3 440, 6.98 3-cone. Tells me he's got the ability to sink his hips and change directions in the open field. So again, this is a guy I'm talking about, third, fourth round possibility that you can bring in here, and he can be a contributor here on offense. Yeah, that's a nice block there by the receiver. But I also like the explosiveness, the athletic ability that Bo Melton shows you here in his highlight film. And this one here again, we're talking about his open field abilities. We see him get the ball in his hands here and just now do his thing here in terms of yards after contact, yards after the catch. Gets the ball again, makes guys miss, continues upfield. This is what we've seen with the trend in the NFL right now. Get these speedy receivers, get the ball in their hands, and let them do their thing and make plays. Now, I'm going to say a name here. I'm not comparing him to this player, but we've seen Tyreek Hill just get traded, get paid a lot of money because he does a lot of these kind of similar things. Get the ball in his hands behind the line of scrimmage, let him do his thing, get upfield, use his explosiveness and his athletic ability to make plays. Again, I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill, but I'm just saying he gives you some type of that juice on offense that you want to see. Just get the ball in this kid's hands and let him go and do his thing here.
So what does he do badly that people are kind of looking at him as a potential day 3 pick?
Well, he's an undersized receiver. He's only about 5'11", 189 pounds. Doesn't have the quintessential big huge catch radius. Only had 618 yards receiving at Rutgers. Again, I think a lot of that had to do with the quarterback that he was playing with. You watch that clip, the game film. It's rough in terms of their quarterback play at Rutgers. So I think if this kid played in a bigger program, had a better receiver, a better quarterback, I should say, I think he could have been put up bigger numbers. So I think some of that lack of production is what they're kind of looking at there as well. But the other thing too is this guy brings you some punt return and kickoff return ability as well. So he gives you some added bonus there on special teams. So not only can you bring him in and make him be your third or fourth receiver, give you some of those special plays we just put in those highlight clips there, but also give you some added, like I said, return abilities on special teams. So he gives you an ability to kind of utilize them in multiple facets.
Very cool. And going over the middle, as Mule asks, any issues there?
I watching this tape, I don't see him going, having issues going over the middle. The kid's a feisty, competitive receiver. If I see a receiver going across the middle, alligator arming it, it's a red mark, and it's something that I'm not going to be very happy on. And I'll point it out to you guys. But with Bo Melton, a lot of times they use them, as we saw in the clips there, use them on the outside, use them kind of get deep, use them in that quick hitting, quick screen game. So. But when he did run over the middle, I didn't see him, cow down or get, intimidated by an oncoming defender. So I think he's got enough courage to go ahead and make plays over the middle.
2-time captain and has played the gunner position on special teams. So that's attractive as well. Niel, if you had a chance to look at any of that tape of Bo Melton, and if so, what do you think?
Yeah, you do love the leadership intangibles, 100%. I mean, anytime you have a wide receiver that has leadership positions on the team, that's definitely that definitely increases your stock a little bit, in my opinion. To me, I love his 1-2 to excel on special teams. I think that's one of the a lot of college receivers don't quite understand the idea that you need to excel in both of the game and just in catching, or in 3 facets of the game, not just in catching balls, right? You have to catch the ball, not drop the ball. You have to score. You also have to show a willingness to do it and be tough and physical about it. Then you also have to be willing and able to play special teams as well, because teams only carry 5 receivers, and each and every single one of the guys that aren't playing every single snap are going to also play on special teams. And a lot of guys in the college game don't understand that. And a lot of times I had to, or that, NFL scouts, or if we had a receivers coach on campus, came in and talked to receivers about that, because they need to make sure that it was ingrained into their heads, like burnt into their skulls. These guys need to play special teams and take a lot of pride in doing so, right? Because it's part of the job description. And if Bo being a team captain, Bo, being all about special teams, I love that about him. Special teams is one thing that really drove me up the damn wall during the Senior Bowl, though, too, when he took that kickoff out of the end zone when he showed us easily downed it. The Senior Bowl is a damn job interview, and he goes and tries to play hero ball. At least that's what it looked like, and that drove me nuts about him. But thing about him is that he's a 5'11", explosion type athlete. That probably not elite in his explosion, but he's an explosion athlete, and I think that's why he's probably a round 3 guy. This is not the elite level stuff, but upper level stuff. We'll get him a lot of round 4, round 5 looks.
All right, let us move on. Niel, you've got Damari Mathis on your list of players, the cornerback. Where's he out of? What college?
Pittsburgh.
Pitt.
Yeah.
Senior out of Pitt. Take it away.
Yeah, so, Damari is I wanted to bring up Tariq and Damari Mathis last week because I felt like there was a lot of hype around these guys given what they either did at the Combine or what they did pro days. Tariq absolutely blew up the Combine with his measurables, and then Damari absolutely blew up his pro day with what he jumped and what he ran. So, Damari comes in at just over 5'11", just under 200 pounds. He ran 4.39 at the Combine, but then he went ahead and jumped a 43.5 vert and 11.1 broad jump, which are absurdly elite level numbers, right? And automatically the entire draft Twitter started, huddling around, Damari Mathis. We need to have Damari Mathis. Damari Mathis guy. We got to draft Damari Mathis. Hold on a second. There's a lot of things I love about Damari Mathis. He's one of the first cornerbacks that I put up on the show, and one of the first 2 shows that we had in January. The thing about Damari Mathis is, he's in terms of play history, 46 games in his career. 25 of those were starts. Didn't play in 2020 because of an injury, not because he set up because of COVID, but because he had a season-ending injury. To me, what I love about him is he's a cover corner with physicality. He's a tough, willing tackler, and all his highlight review ready, brother. Because he's got a lot of good stuff that he shows. He shows the ability to, his first clip on this highlight is I think what you see that you like about Damari Mathis. You're going to see him in coverage, recognize the play, break off. Oh wait, you're not. That wasn't the first play on the thing. Okay, though.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
What you see with Damari Mathis is, hey, that's okay. We're live. Things happen. Must have been the other thing I had. Anyways, but he's a cover corner with physicality. He's a tough, willing tackler, and he plays bigger than he is. To me, he's raw in skill and technique. He plays a lot of press and a lot of press bail. He's average with his press. He can get turned around in coverage, and he can take bad angles. So in terms of the things that you don't like about him, those are all things that are coachable. And I think that those are things that, once he gets in, a system with a really good, position coach, you can fix a lot of that. But what you love is his physicality. He's going to hit you hard. He's not a reliable tackler all the time, but he's willing. And then of course the measurables. It's just everything else about him is coachable. He has the things that you can't teach in terms of the size, the strength, the length. He came just under 32-inch arms, 77-inch wingspan for a kid that's under 6 feet, pretty damn good, and near 200 pounds. He's built really well. He's explosive, and so I think that he's a guy that you would find in the early stages of day 3 that would eventually be probably a pretty strong starter, or at least a special teams ace, but a guy that would eventually turn into a guy that you'd like to have at nickel, or maybe be your second starter. As a preface to all of this, I still believe that we have our second cornerback on the roster currently in Thomas Graham. I feel like he's the guy that you play outside of Jalen Johnson. Because if you go back to last year, I'm just going to go real quick to what I said about him last year. Thomas Graham, number 1, measured really well. 5'10 and a half, 193, solidly built kid, 31-inch arms, long enough. Ran 4.45, 4.21 shuttle, 34.5 vert, jumped over 10 on the broad, was really quick, 7.08 in a short shuttle, but a bunch of programs, a bunch of franchises kind of lost back on him. He became an out of sight, out of mind guy because he sat out 2020. Back in if you're looking at the 2021 of a lot of teams and a lot of scouts' opinions had him probably late day 3, early day 4, basically a guy that would come in and play meaningful ball. And somehow he rides the practice team squad the entire time when he was under Matt Nagy, which I think to me is completely inexcusable. But you're talking about a guy that was productive. In 2019, a couple picks, 10 PBUs, 5 tackles for loss, played near the line of scrimmage, was tough. In 2018, 3 picks, 18 PBUs, highly competitive when the ball's in his area. He didn't have like the top level elite physical measurables, but the measurables well above average. His hip fluidity was, I think, borderline special. He had great reactionary athleticism. And, there's that one drill where the DB on kind of like a one-on-one drill, he drops back, and the whole idea of the drill is to plant, spike, drive, and get to the ball. And he just absolutely destroyed that drill during Senior Bowl. And it was one of the things that really opens your eyes about some of these guys when you don't see them live in practice, when you aren't able to, see these guys perform drills on a playing field. At Senior Bowl, that drill opened my eyes with him. He's got hips on a swivel, enough explosion, sense of urgency to pop out, transition, flow to the ball. His competitiveness and willingness to be physical, both as a tackler and in press, was eye-opening to me as well, both in Senior Bowl practice film and on game film the year before. Plays with a ton of juice and energy. And we saw a lot of all these things I'm talking about on film last year, in the tail end of 2021 when he's with the Bears. And so, to me, I think that he's a guy that Eberflus comes in, he sees he's got a 1 in Jalen Johnson, might have a 1 in Thomas Graham based on what we've seen so far. Yeah, it's up in the air. We don't 100% know, but what you see on college film, what you see in very limited reps in the NFL, I think you have a 2. Right now, it's about finding that third guy to be that third DB and then set. Whether that's Thomas Graham or whether that's somebody else you bring in hopefully round 2, because this cornerback class, as the more I get into it, the more I get scared that it's not deep enough for us to get an absolute baller. So I feel like you need to get one early. But I feel like you got 2 on the roster already. You just need to find a third. And I feel like Paris is a guy that can get later on as a developmental guy. But I don't think he's just like Woolen. I don't think he's a guy yet that you bring in to have a specific. I think he's a little bit more of a developmental guy, and I have 3 other guys, coming later on tonight. I feel like can be immediate, contributors on the defensive side of the ball.
Outstanding, Danny. Any thoughts on Mathis?
Yeah, I mean, this is a kid that he was one of my Senior Bowl winners, and I keep referring back to the Senior Bowl because, guys, this is the time where we actually see these guys live up front, right, in Mobile, and we see him one-on-one, and the one thing I love about this kid is man, he's a feisty, competitive cover corner, and what's the one thing, he never backed down from anybody in those practices, and I appreciate that. And now I want to go see that when I put on his game film. I want to see the same thing, and that's what I see when I watch his tape over at Pitt. Neil touched on some of his measurables, and Neil, actually, I was gonna text you and be like, once we saw him jump that 43.5 vertical, I'm like, watch, everyone's gonna be on Damari Mathis. When you and I were like talking, this guy was lighting it up down in Mobile, Alabama, was one of the more impressive cover corners down that we saw. So, but yeah, I mean, feisty, competitive, quick, can mirror off the line of scrimmage. To me, he's a press cover corner. He's got the recovery speed. He's got the ability to sink his hips, stop, start, change directions with ease. Again, coverage awareness. We saw that play against Clemson there. It does a nice job of keying off the receiver in coverage, being able to turn back and locate the football and make an interception there. So you see some of that stuff you want to see. Him staying in phase downfield. I think this is a guy that can come in and probably play the slot at the next level because he's got that shiftiness, he's got that quickness, he's got those loose hips to be able to go in and cover those quicker corners. He can shadow. This guy's, you see him shadowing receivers from one side to the other, not just strictly playing either the left or right cornerback position. He can come in. He can, if you want him to, line up. And as, for example, if you're covering the slot and the slot receiver is moving from left to right, you can always make him move and cover. So he's comfortable doing that as well. So those are all things positives you see on his game tape. Obviously there's things for me that I think there's a reason why he's going to be available probably in day 3. For me, he's got to get stronger. I mean, he has a hard time of rerouting receivers, especially bigger receivers. He was covering Justin Ross in that game against Clemson. A hard time rerouting him off the line of scrimmage. His technique was pretty off as well, so he's going to be coached up there. A lot of times he was just kind of tapping the receiver on the shoulder pads. I want to see a full bolt jolt. And if you're going to press a receiver and you're going to try to reroute them, you got to give your full boat energy and try and hit him in that chest plate and kind of stop his momentum off the line of scrimmage. So there's some coaching things that he can get coached up on, obviously. Size can be an issue because, you could see bigger receivers in the NFL kind of boxing him out and just, kind of like a rebounder going up and making plays over him. So obviously that 43-inch vertical is going to help him kind of, defend against those kind of plays. But, and he can't get handsy downfield. He's his guy that, he's physical. He doesn't mind mixing it up while in coverage downfield. And a lot of times you see him kind of tugging on jerseys and all that stuff. So, there may be, a flag here and there, but that's something, again, coaching, you can clean that up for him. But man, competitive, quickness off the line of scrimmage, a guy that's fearless in terms of coming down and run support. I know Niel, you said he needs to kind of work on his tackling. The games I saw, he does a good job of going low, wrapping up the feet and bringing the guy down. So, maybe he needs to kind of clean up some things there as well. But I mean, I'm telling you, if you get this guy in the third or fourth round, especially on day 3, I think you have a potential starter here down the line.
Yeah, NFL.
Yeah, round 4 is exactly where I think he's going to be.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say NFL.com and the Draft Network have pointed out that he has been plagued by penalties because he tends to panic sometimes and gets handsy, and so that's not a good look. But everybody seems to like him as a developmental player who could start to play dividends quickly from that slot position. So somebody to keep an eye on. Mm-hmm. All right. Let us move on to Alec Pierce. Danny, it's all yours.
Yeah. So guys, again, I'm covering receivers here because you guys are panicking about receivers. We need receivers. I just want to prove to you guys that this class of receivers is deep. And, there's guys I haven't even touched on yet that you're going to probably get in the 4th or 5th round that I'm going to be covering in future shows, just to kind of let everyone know that the Bears are probably going to, if things stay status quo the way they are on the roster, they're probably going to draft 2 receivers in this draft class, because you have the big body guys, you have the speed guys, you have short guys, you have the guys with mid-range size. So there's a ton of them. And this guy is a guy that I guess blew up, draft Twitter. Is a kid that I know Niel was high on early on in the season. I started, the more I watched him, I liked him more and more and more. And he went to the combine and he just absolutely blew it up. We're talking about Alec Pierce, the kid from Cincinnati, a local kid. The guy's from Glen Ellen. He went to Glenbard West High School. So if the Bears draft him, it'll be more of like a homecoming. This guy was a multi-sport athlete in high school. He played football, basketball, volleyball, and was in track. A 3-year starter at Cincinnati. So, this is a kid that just oozes big play potential, right? Mm-hmm. So now if we go to his tape, let's go ahead and roll the tape. And Niel, this is not, I didn't do it on purpose. I know it's versus Notre Dame. It's totally random here. But you see him here lined up in the slot. He gets past the linebacker and finds a hole in the zone coverage. Makes a nice adjustment to the ball, slightly behind him, and then just makes a nice catch. Quickly turns upfield. No dancing. Guys that are quick twitch, guys that are fast, they always try to dance and make guys juke guys in the open field. No, he catches the ball, turns around and gets upfield and gets as many yards as he can. So again, you'll see a theme with this kid in terms of being able to find the hole in zone coverages and sit down. He's a big guy at 6'3", 211, 33-inch arms. He gives you that huge wingspan as well for a nice big target for a quarterback to throw to. So again, you see that quarterback get the ball kind of feathered over that second level in front of that third level defender, and him with his long arms was able to go up there, or big size, was able to go make a nice easy catch. Ball slightly behind him, adjusts nicely, turns it upfield, gets as many yards as he can, and picks up that first down. So this here, I just want to show you guys his willingness to go out and block. You see here as he takes this DB and he just rides him out of bounds. And that's the key thing with this offense. You're going to have the receivers that can be able to block downfield, because in my opinion, this is going to be a heavy run-based offense. So again, takes that DB, just runs him out of bounds. He's not a devastating blocker, but certainly he will put forth the effort to go ahead and block his man downfield and allow his ball carrier to get those extra yards. Mm-hmm. So I like that when I see this on his tape and I see receivers blocking. I love putting that on their highlight tape reel, and then just kind of highlight it in their notes as well, that this guy will block, and he gives you the full effort there as well. This next clip here, again, I want to show you that some of that quickness off the snap that that allows for that terrific release here. Inside jab step opens the defender to his inside, and then the DB is basically beaten. He's done there. The ball is underthrown a bit, so he has to slow down and go up and use that explosive jumping ability to make a play on the ball. But he has, again, shows that courage right here. Right, goes even though he sees a defender coming, bearing down on him. He goes up there, exposes his ribs, and makes that play. To me, this shows competitive toughness. So we see quickness off the snap to get a nice release. We show explosiveness, his burst to be able to get by the defender, and then now courage to be able to competitive toughness, to be able to go up there, make a play, expose his inside ribs or inside sternum to a defender that's bearing down on him, and make the play. So those are all positives for me for Alec Pierce on this film here.
Danny, I love the way he takes a peek at the safety, but he doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
Watch
Exactly.
right here. He's going to look at the safety right there.
Yes, great catch. Although, and I didn't point that out, but I did see that as well. Sees him and again doesn't care. Some might say, "Oh, the guy didn't hit him," but doesn't matter. He doesn't know he's not going to hit him. He knows he's coming at him. He still goes up there and he gives up his body potentially to make the catch, and that's what I love to see on film.
Yep, nice. Clip 4.
So this clip here, this is clip 4. Again, I just want to show you the quickness here. Helps, beats press coverage, right? Releases clean, and this is a go route. And you can see that jab step again opens up the DB's inside leg, allowing Pierce to go ahead and run right by him. He's got that explosive speed, guys. 4.41 speed, 40.5 vertical. He's got an explosive lower body, and this guy just goes ahead and just runs by defensive back. So as long as you get him clean off the line of scrimmage. And he does it with his quickness, and again his ability to kind of juke and open up the defender's hips to the inside, gets him turned around a little bit, get past him. He's got the ability to speed, and nice there, tracks the ball over his shoulders, which is not easy to do, especially when there's a third level defender coming down towards you as well. So again, a nice ability, natural hands catcher, doesn't have to kind of cradle it to his body. You don't see a lot of double catches with this kid, so. Toughness, competitive, speed, burst, a lot of things here on tape that get you excited about Alec Pierce. This is the 5th clip here. Again, we're talking about another good release off the line of scrimmage. Why is that? Because of his quickness and his ability to go ahead and get this DB, basically in phase downfield, right? The DB's there. He's got coverage, but Pierce here uses his size and his length to go ahead and extend over his head, make that catch. Again, 33-inch arm length, 6'3" body frame, gives you a big, nice catch radius down at the end zone in the red zone target. Again, there's a nice job. The DB's trying to kind of ride him here to the outer bounds, get him, kind of limit his area there, his green grass. Does a nice job of fighting him off using his free hand. And again, just goes up there and makes like a nice catch on the run. Big body, big play here in the end zone. So this is the type of things he brings you. He brings you the guy that can take a top off of defense with that speed. He gives you some of that, that size in terms of a guy that can go up and win those 50-50 jump balls, which you want to see as well. Again, with Allen Robinson gone, we're going to need a receiver that's going to be able to do that for us. So now, he might be available in the 3rd round, maybe even the 4th round. I doubt he gets to the day 3, but, it's probably in that late 2nd, early 3rd round stage. And I think a lot of his issues is, he missed some games last year with injuries. He's a guy that hasn't really put up a lot of yards. I think this past season had 884 yards, which was his highest for his career, and 8 touchdowns, which was his highest for his career. So the production really hasn't matched the athletic ability. But once he puts his guy all together, you get him in a system where he gets coached up and he works on some of the finer in terms of his things he needs to work on. Route running. A lot of times you see he kind of rounds out his routes. He doesn't do the sharp cut. His feet are nice and quiet at the top of his stem there. But I just kind of see him get a little more sharper in terms of his cuts and get in and out of his breaks. So small things that he can be coached up on. But once you get this kid coached up, again, that combination of size, athletic ability is very, very enticing, especially you put him outside there. If you're Justin Fields, you have a guy you can just kind of throw the ball up there, have him just use that athletic ability to go up there and make a play on the football.
Niel, Greg Gabriel today said that he won't make it to pick number 48. Do you kind of agree with that? You spotted him first.
I mean, I don't think he's definitely making it out of day 2. If he shows up in the 4th round, he'll be one of the first picks in the 4th round because you just don't not take that's easy day 2 talent. On one of the first shows, he was another one of these guys that I brought up that, one of the first game, I can't remember if it was the first game or one of the first 2 or 3 games of the year. I'm watching Notre Dame and, Alec Pierce shows up. And I think at the time I called him kind of sneaky fast in the sense that I thought he was fast, but not 4.41 fast. I thought he was explosive, but not 40+ vert explosive. I thought he might have been, high 4.4, low 4.5, right? And then he blows out the combine unbelievably with all these numbers. Holy cow. But and that's the thing about it, though, is that you watch the guy play live, right, against high level DBs, and he's creating separation, not because of his ability to run routes, not necessarily because of his technique, but also because he's just more athletic than everybody else on the damn field. So it's really easy to spot these guys a lot of times. He's got that elite elusiveness, he's got the elite speed, he's got the size. What's not to like, really? He's a hands catcher, right? He's got great ball skills. He can trap the ball in. It's hard not to like a guy like that. Like, to me, like, guys, people saying that he's a 4th round guy, maybe 5th round guy, maybe, and making it out of day 2 blows my mind. To me, that's all I got on that.
No, this kid's not making it out of day 2. He's impressed so much in terms of his at the combine, and what he's done in one-on-ones. I think it's he might go third round, he might not go 2nd round, but I mean, he's not making it out of day 2, in my opinion. I find hard. Yeah. My thing watching this kid's tape is, how do the local schools let this kid get out of Illinois? Like, I don't get it. Like Northwestern, hello, Illinois, NIU. How'd you guys let this guy get out of state?
Again, dude, like, in terms of recruiting, guys are late bloomers. I didn't look deep enough into his recruiting process, and obviously, being down in Mississippi for 8 years, recruit down north typically, it has to be like a national elite recruit for us to go that far north for a guy, which tells me that, number one, he was an elite national recruit, but number two, maybe he was 170 pounds in high school, and maybe he had a bad day at one of the Nike combines, the opening combines, and he ran a 4.7 at 6'1", 170, right? There's a bunch of different variables that comes into where a kid goes and why he goes the place that he does. To me, with what he meant to Cincinnati and him staying there until he graduated, that to me tells you a lot. That to me tells you dedication and loyalty. I put a lot of emphasis and weight on kids that are able to make a commitment and stand by him. But I mean, throughout his whole career, Fickle's been there, so he didn't really have any reasons to, back out of anything, if that makes sense. I'm about to get into a whole thing with recruiting. I should probably just stop now because I'm for hours about this stuff. But think about it is that I got to look back into, like, what he did in high school, like where he was, size, weight, what he tested at, what he did on film and everything. Kind of give you an idea. But, I mean, shit, you got a kid from Glenbard West. That's a good program here. It's not like it's inner city. Chicago. It's not like it's middle of nowhere. Illinois. I mean, that's a well coached, well funded, developmental program that should put kids places. And he's figure out a way to find himself in Cincinnati.
Niel's freezing up on us a little tonight.
Yeah, man.
He's you're in an ice cold room or something. You're freezing up.
Studio 1A's got some choppy internet.
It happens when we move from studio to studio. All right, let's see if you can get us through Kyler Gordon, Niel, the cornerback, who is looking quite impressive to a lot of people.
How am I right now? Am I choppy or am I good?
You appear to be good.
Hey, let me do this. Danny, go on to your next guy. I'm going to go out and come back in, and we're going to try and fix this.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to go to Kyler Gordon's teammate. So I've been giving you guys receivers for the last couple of weeks, and now I'm going to give you a guy that could cover these receivers, right? And I absolutely love this kid. And this is Trent McDuffie from Washington. And a lot of guys are going to say, oh, he's not going to be there in the second round. We talked about earlier, right? Talked about things happen in the draft. There are runs at positions. There are players that kind of jump up into the first round that were unexpected. So don't be listening to all this stuff that's going on these mock drafts that are just useless, in my opinion. But whatever. This is a guy that could drop. And one of the reasons why he might drop into that second round is because of that length. He doesn't have the prototypical length you want in a corner, especially a corner on the outside, right? He's probably predominantly going to be an inside slot corner. He's got less than 30-inch arm length, smaller hands. So I think putting him on the outside, some defensive coordinators are going to kind of frown upon that. So I think they're going to just label him as a slot inside corner. So I think the Bears might have this opportunity where they see this kid just sitting there at pick 39 And the reason why the Bears would probably jump all over him is we just touched on earlier, right? Matt Eberflus said that they're going to be in their nickel or dime package 85% of the time. An extra DB is going to be, needed on that field. So, what else to do to get this kid here, Jeremy McDuffie? So, Aldo, go ahead and roll his clips. This first clip here, we're gonna see him here sent in as a blitzer, and what I want to highlight here is the ball is thrown away from him to the field side of the field side of the football field. But look at the amount of distance he runs to go ahead and track down the ball. Right, that's competitiveness. That's hustle. That's you see speed. You see burst here as well. This is what we talked about in terms of the Bears. They're going to play hard. They're going to play fast. They're going to play physical. If that's what they're going to preach, this is what they're going to have to produce on the field. And this is the type of effort you want to see from a guy coming off from the opposite side of the football field, running the play down all the way across the field. And then getting there and making the tackle. And this the kid Corn is a pretty shifty kid there for Michigan. So again, the first thing I saw on tape, I'm like, this kid. I love him. He's that competitiveness, the toughness, and just ability to hustle, be able to get to the football, rally to the ball, which is what this defensive staff is going to be preaching here from day one. So this kid fits the bill right away. That's what I want to highlight here on this first clip.
We'll move on to clip 2.
Yep. Clip 2 here, we're going to see. Okay, so I got this is still clip 1. Clip 2 here, we're going to see him again coming from the boundary side of the field. Watch how he's out of the play, right? The run, it's a run play. Running back's going up middle of the field, comes in. I love the way he squares up his shoulders, gets low, wraps up, and tackles. Guys, how many times did we see our defensive backs shoulder tackle or attempt to kind of just whiff at a tackle? But no, this guy comes in from the opposite side, comes in, gets in the middle of the field, gets himself balanced, gets himself square to the ball carrier, gets low, wraps up, and brings down a ball carrier. Again, this is toughness. This is competitive toughness. This is hustle. This is, getting to the ball, rallying to the football. And this is what this kid puts out on tape. Absolutely love this kid.
Yeah. He appears to be special. He's got all he's been coached well, is what I'm trying to say.
Here, I want to show you his what I call zone eyes, right? His zone eyes and his awareness. We see where he's kind of dropping off here in coverage. He sees the ball coming underneath him to a speedy kid like Corn, who's basically matched up one-on-one versus a linebacker. He knows that his linebacker is going to be outclassed here in terms of talent, in terms of athletic ability. He lets his man go, drops down, comes down, and helps make the tackle. Again, to me, that's good zone eyes. That's good coverage awareness. Know what your know your personnel. Know what's going on defense. There knows his linebacker is going to be matched up unfairly against Corn, a quicker, shiftier running back out of the backfield. Go down, help your guy. And what he does, he comes down, he makes a tackle from behind. This guy will hustle to the football. He'll chase on a play, whether it's backside, front side, doesn't care. This guy will find a football, and he will get himself there in position to make a play. This next tray here, we're going to show him here playing off-man coverage, right? Sees the quarterback coming to his side, and look how quickly it just transitions downhill and tackles through the receiver to limit the gain on the completion. Here what I'm seeing is his quick feet, his transition quickness, his ability to burst, attack, and wrap up. These are things, this quickness, this burst is going to be needed, especially if you're playing inside in that slot position, right? How many times you're going to see a quick hitting play? You want to see your defensive back to be able to plant his feet, transition quickly downhill, come up, and most importantly, wrap up and limit the damage. And that's what he does here. Plants, hits, goes and again tackles through the receiver. Okay, tackles through the receiver, wraps him up, and then brings him down. Whatever yardage that they got there is very, very limited because of the play he just made.
Yeah, the tie game, fourth quarter, 1st and 10. The ball on the opponent's side of the field. So, are you concerned about the coverage that he was playing? Because somebody in the chat room just said there was a lot of cushion there.
Well, and that's what the defense calls. So it's a defensive call coming in. Guys, remember, the Bears are going to be playing a lot of off-man coverage here as well, right? If you're looking for this guy to come in and be able to do one-on-one press coverage, he can do it as well. He's got the quickness. He's got the loose hips to be able to mirror off the line of scrimmage. So that's not an issue for me. But I'm saying this right here is just the defense that was called, and that's why he's doing. He's playing the defense that was called. You notice the other corner, which Niel's going to get to later on. He's Kyle Gordon. That guy's playing press coverage, and he's playing off-man coverage. So a lot of times defensive coordinator that disguise coverages. They have a one side playing man, they have one side playing zone or off coverage. So, that's just a defense that was called. That's not him deciding what to do there. So, but what I want to point out is because the Bears are going to be playing a lot of off man coverage this year, his ability to plant, drive, and play through the receiver, and more importantly, wrap up and tackle. I just showed you 3 or 4 clips here. I'm showing you this guy at 5'11", 193, being able to wrap up and tackle better than any of our safeties did last year, right? So this is a guy that has been, although touch on it, he's been coached well. He knows how to square up, get low, wrap up the ball carrier, and make sure the ball carrier is down on the ground. I love that about him. Hustles, plays hard. And again, if we're worried about coverage skills, this kid does, shouldn't worry about that.
Very good. Let's see if Niel's connection is a little better.
How are we doing? Can we get thumbs up from listeners and watchers? Can we got thumbs up?
Oh,
So
that
appears to be working. Have you had a chance
Everybody
to look
else,
at any of? Have you had a chance to look at any of that tape that we just showed regarding Trent McDuffie?
Yeah, to be honest, I watched a couple, 2 or 3 full games of McDuffie looking at Kyler Gordon. The thing about McDuffie is the same way that I feel about Andrew Booth, I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, is a guy that has first-round talent that may not be taken in the first round, that you can find early second round at pick 39 type of position that would give you tremendous value. I love McDuffie. He's better than Gordon. I brought up Gordon as a guy that could sneak his way into the third round. The guy that has a bunch of traits, still needs to be coached up a little bit, but the guy that has a lot of traits that you like. McDuffie's the better player of the two. Everything about what Danny said about guys that they have to plant and drive and still be able to be nimble in space and stay on receivers' asses and be able to make tackles and be physical are exactly what I look for in a corner. I think the last guy I talked about, Damari Mathis, has a lot of that stuff. He's a little bit further on down the developmental line. A guy like McDuffie that you can pretty much bring in, plug and play is exactly what you look for in our next guy that comes in playing opposite of Jalen Johnson. And in that sense, go ahead and move Thomas Graham to nickel.
Very good. All right, let's move on to Kyler Gordon, the player you were just talking about.
Yes, so Kyler played the opposite of McDuffie. He's a guy that, if I put my notes here, Kyler Gordon came in at 5'11 and a half, 194 at the combine. Long enough arms at 31, ran a 5'2", 40. Nothing that really pops your eyes in terms of his measurables, but it's all about the way that he plays. He shows a lot of things on tape that you really like in terms of his traits and in terms of the way he plays, in terms of his technique and style. A little bit of background: 2021 All Pac-12 first team, 33 games of his play history, 17 starts. Started all 12 last year. Was his first full year starting, but in that first full year starting, 45 tackles, 4 for loss, 2 picks, 7 passes defense, which actually, shockingly enough, was a team best. And then also forced fumble on top of that. To me, quick reaction. He can flip his hips really well. Can really burst to the ball. He's got the pitter-patter feet, like the really quick, typewriter feet that you look for in a guy that is able to change direction and burst. And he's got physicality as well. McDuffie's not the only one that in that DB room that has physicality to him. Shows a lot of that stuff on highlights. Smooth and fluid athletic ability. Very good combine workout. If you watch the individual drills, you saw all these things on tape. The game film shows a guy is very solid in coverage. I think at times he struggles with route recognition and ball tracking. So those are also things that, again, coachable things like I talked about with Damari. It doesn't make you necessarily want to question his instincts, but you want to look for answers when you're watching his film. The physicality. He's not the physical guy all the time, but he does show the physicality when he's impressed. He shows press bail as well. And when he comes up and makes a tackle, he tries to hit guys, which is, again, what you look for. I think he needs just to be a little bit more reliable of a tackler and get off blocks better. But, in terms of what you like about Kyler is that, he's got the unteachable traits, like I was talking about Damari. He's got the unteachable traits. He needs better coaching and he needs a little bit more development. But in terms of what he brings to the table, in terms of his fluid athletic ability, his ability to plant and burst and explode, towards the football, and some flashes that he shows in coverage and multiple coverages, I think he's a guy that we could find at later day 3 that would be a welcome addition to that cornerbacks room as not only an immediate contributor but also a special teams guy as well.
Excellent. Danny, you've got any thoughts on Kyler Gordon?
Yeah, for me, a lot of people like Gordon more than McDuffie, and for me, it's the opposite. I like McDuffie more than Gordon.
Completely, yeah.
And different kind of, similar, almost similar, in terms of height and weight and all that stuff. But Gordon's got a little bit longer reach. He's more of a physical corner. He's more of a guy that I could see line up on the outside. Being a guy that probably maybe might excel more on an off man coverage, system like the Bears. Have him be able to come down, plant, and drive and be physical at the tackling. Tackling through the ball carrier was what you like to see here with him as well. For me, he got lost a little bit, too lost in coverage. They got spun around a couple times by receivers that are running decent routes. So that kind of worries me a little bit. But again, he's a guy that touched on. You can coach him up. He's got those traits. He's got the physicality. He's got the 39, almost 40-inch vertical. So he's got that lower body explosion there. You like seeing in your bigger, our outside corners. Guys that can go up there and make a play on contested catches, make a play on that kind of stuff. So that's why I see him more outside. I see McDuffie more as a guy that probably line up in the slot and a guy that can really. And to me, McDuffie is a better tackler in terms of just more secure open field tackler than Gordon was on tape. So, a lot of people like Gordon better, but for me, I prefer McDuffie. But again, I have McDuffie as a slot corner, not a guy that's going to be on the outside. So if you're looking for an outside corner, probably you want to lean towards Gordon. But I think if you're looking for more of an instant contributor guy that can cover the slot, McDuffie's the way to go, and that's the way I was leaning.
Over at NFL.com, an area scout for an NFC team was quoted anonymously as saying he's a ridiculous tester and athlete, and he's going to go in the first round. But I think he needs more seasoning before he's ready to start. First round, wow.
That's a little too rich for me.
Blood.
Yeah, I mean, just based off his tape. I mean, again, some I fall in love with that, athletic ability and just the physical nature in terms of the way he plays the game, which is great, which is fine. But just if you want, guys that can come in and be instant contributors right away, I think first round might be a little bit too high for my blood. But hey, if that allows McDuffie to drop down to the Bears to pick 39, that's cool.
Absolutely.
I'm cool with that.
All right, we're going to stick with you, Neil, and move on to Martin Emerson, the cornerback from Mississippi State.
Yeah, Martin Emerson, my guy at Mississippi State. He's one of the last recruiting classes that I was involved in at Mississippi State. I love the kid. He's from Pensacola, Florida. Very under-recruited, very underrated, undervalued, under everything in high school. Wasn't at a great program, was really raw coming in. But you like him for the same reasons that you like a lot of the guys that we talk about that you like to take in 4 and 5 was because of his physical and athletic traits, and showed a lot of that. And he showed enough of this stuff on tape and coverage to where you think to yourself, man, we can just coach him up a little bit and he's going to be a guy. So, Martin Emerson, what he showed at the combine, came in at 6'2", 201, big old hands at 10 1/8, long ass reach at 33.5. Ran a 4.5 340, which to me, with his size and his reach, is absolutely 100% adequate enough. 3-year starter at Mississippi State. From the second he stepped on the field, he was a starter. As raw as he was, he was one of those types of athletes that you just could not have on the field. If that makes sense. 49 tackles last year, 49 tackles, three for loss, 3 passes broken up. 154 tackles in his career, 16 passes broken up. Like I said, raw, still growing. A lot of stuff that you see on tape is a lot of stuff that he's had to learn while he was at Mississippi State. And while he was at Mississippi State, I spent a lot of time in the weight room over the course of those 3 years. Well-built kid, has some girth, got some big old arms now, got some traps on him. You love his size, you love his physicality. Athletically, fluid in space, smooth in his drop. He can swivel his hips. He can turn and run with wide receivers very easily. And he's a hip pocket guy. 2 games that I watched for Ole Miss and Alabama with this kid, and he was in hip pocket. He was in hip pocket of Ole Miss receivers the entire time. Alabama did a really good job. He does show route recognition. He can burst and drive to the ball. Really good short area. He also has a recovery twitch and speed, and in both those games you saw that. His ability to get his hips around and then float with the receiver, even being out of position, is one of those special traits that you need in a corner, especially with one that size. you kind of consider that special. As far as press, strong against blockers. He's strong. He's able to shed. He has some pop in his hands, and he gives good effort attacking the ball as well. He's a willing tackler. He flies around the field, which is really what Mississippi State defense has traditionally been about. It's you fly to the ball, it's 11 man to the ball, type of thing. Absolutely attacks the ball carrier, shows very good reactionary athleticism. In terms of drawbacks and things that he has to fix, to me, I think he could be way too mechanical in his tackling technique at times. A lot of times that's just a matter of coaching as well. He needs to be further coached up in his quarterback technique. I think sometimes he can get also lost on routes. I think at times he can also, get way too wrapped up in thinking about, the steps that he needs to take. Most of the time he's fine. He's developed, tremendously over the course of the past 3 years from where he came in at. Not a refined prospect, but he's got a lot of tools to work with, and you really can't teach a lot of the physical and athletic things that he brings. As fluid and smooth and natural as he is, it's going to be a matter of probably a year or two before he's one of, you could probably consider him a top-level corner in the league, I think.
What do you think, Danny?
Well, initially, I'm like, Niel's gonna hype up one of the guys he helped recruit to Mississippi State. This is gonna be one of his guys. I'm like, whatever. But no, I put on this kid's tape.
I take pride in my work, huh? I put
on this kid's tape, and the kid can play. The kid can play. Obviously, Niel touched on it. Size, big corner, man. 6'2", 203, 33 inch arm length. I think of as Seattle Seahawks, Legion of Boom type of cornerback, right?
100%.
A guy that's big, and he's a guy that was willing to come down and we saw there, lay out a running back in the open field and make tackles. He's a guy that tracks the ball nicely in terms of downfield coverage. Will get involved in terms of as a run defender. We'll go chase the ball or run it down. So we talked about what the Bears want: play hard, play fast, play physical. This guy does all that on tape here and then some. So I love the long strides. Eats up cushion really quickly there. Ran a 4.52 40 at the combine, so that's a little concerning, especially if you're gonna. For me, he's a press man coverage guy, right? He's not a zone corner guy. Although he played a little bit off man coverage at Mississippi State, but I like him more as a press coverage guy, especially a guy kind of jamming and using that length at the line of scrimmage, slowing down receivers' releases, rerouting them off the snap, and that's what I'm looking here. That's how I'm projecting this kid at the next level, getting a little bit stronger, a little bit more bulked up. He's a tall corner, right? A lot of tall corners, they struggle, dipping those hips and changing directions real quick. So, he's a guy that's kind of probably being limited just strictly outside. He's not going to be an inside guy playing the slot. So you don't expect to see that. He can line up against, bigger body tight ends. So it gives you that type of, advantage in terms of being cover those guys that can be, freaks down the field. Guys like Kyle Pitts from Atlanta, Gronk still to this day, guys that can make plays in the red zone. You can kind of line up against him. But again, he's got to get bigger, got to get stronger. In terms of his tackling, like I said, I kind of touched on it. I like his effort. I like the way he goes out, attacks it, but he does go a little bit high in terms of going, either waist or pad level high. A lot of times you see some guys kind of, wiggle themselves away from him. So I wanted him to get low consistently. But again, 6'2", it's a little harder for those guys to kind of get down and be able to wrap up. So if he can just fix that a little bit, again, things that all can be coached up, things that all can be, he can get better at, but you just look at the athletic ability, the size. This is a guy that's got press cover corner written all over him at the next level. Could the Bears use a guy like this? Sure. I see this guy more of like a day three, early day three guy, possibly sneaks into late rounds or a third round, maybe late day two. But I think he's more of a day three guy, but definitely a guy they can kind of take and develop there as well.
Yeah, I think, looking at him, the way that he plays, the way that he moves. And again, like you say, big guys, they struggle getting low. I felt he was very bendy in his hips. I felt it looked like really natural to him compared to some other guys.
Doesn't change directions very well. It doesn't sink him and change. That's the thing I saw on. And again, he's a big guy. You don't see like Brandon Browning or bigger cornerbacks. They don't do that kind of stuff, right? But he's a guy.
I was able to get the all-22 of this kid. I was able to see a lot of things that you don't see on the TV copy. And what I saw was, I'll be honest with you, from the TV copy, a lot of times what I saw was a kid that, he looked like he was a little bit, he struggled with changing direction a little bit. He struggled to get his hips around to mirror guys, to stay with guys, whatever the case may be. Turn on the all-22, I think it paints a different story, and that's why scouts watch the all-22. To me, I felt it was really easy for him to and especially when it comes to recovery and reactionary athleticism. Be able to flip, run with, stay in the hip pocket, even though he's completely out of position. I saw some different things on the tape that I watched that, I'm going to try and get you some of that tape. Maybe we can bring up next week.
Sure.
Teaser, Martin Emerson has agreed to come on the show, so maybe we can get him on.
Hey, there you go.
What? That's a hell of a teaser. Martin Emerson is going to come out, and then he goes away.
Pops the mic and he walks away.
Is he coming on tonight, or is he coming out next week?
We'll never know. That's part of the teaser. It's a mystery.
That was a hell of a teaser.
No, I think Niel dropped off to go pick up Martin Emerson and bring him onto the show.
That's right.
Just
like McCaskey did with Poles, right?
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to pick him up at the airport. He's at O'Hare right now, circling around to go get him. So, yeah,
hilarious. That was funny. That was a hell of a teaser.
Taj over
Emerson,
the Russians getting after my ass, I'm telling you.
We were saying, I think you were going to go pick him up from the airport and bring him onto the show.
I'm going to pick him up from the airport. He's going to fly into but no, he's agreed to come on the show, and he's going to talk to us about his time at Mississippi State, and we can grill him on some questions, and he's a great kid. He'd be all for it.
Great. The other thing is that Niel is his ball skills. He only had 1 interception in 3 seasons at Mississippi State, so that's one thing that also kind of concerns me is his ability to make the play on the football.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's necessarily a ball skills thing as much as it is, defensive philosophy. To be honest with you,
so they tell him not to intercept the ball there at Mississippi State.
Stay away from the football. Just go.
Do not touch this thing. Do not touch this thing.
I'm not gonna step on that landmine. I'm not gonna step on that landmine.
Shipman does stand-up comedy too.
You know what? Just don't slap me.
I can't guarantee that. Hey, Robbie.
Too soon for that? Is it too soon for that joke? Or
no, absolutely not. Robbie says, does Jalen Johnson still fit this new scheme? Will he be willing to put a nose on the ball early and often? What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah. Ravi, did you see John Johnson play the last couple of years, man? This guy's a physical, tough-nosed corner. If anything, he's a guy that I'm always worried he's gonna, he came into the league here with the Bears, with 2 shoulder injuries. So that's the one thing I just want to make sure he does form tackling, goes down and protects himself. But yeah, this kid doesn't back down from anybody. The thing about Jalen Johnson is we saw last year is that growth in him in terms of not only on the field, but off the field, taking more of a leadership role on this football team. And where basically what we come to find out is where leadership was needed in that locker room. So, we all thought everyone was hunky-dory. Everyone loved Matt Nagy. Well, no, it wasn't the case. And I think Jalen Johnson was one of the first ones that I remember kind of stepping out and saying, hey, enough of these rah-rah speeches. Let's go out and get some football games. Let's get some victories. Now, does it look bad that the second last or last game of the season where he doesn't touch down the receiver does look bad there as well. He has those brain farts here and there, but that's got to be cleaned up. He's only a second-year player. I think again we're going to talk about the scheme here as we go into the more into the offseason and as we get into OTAs and all that stuff. But the one stat I saw from I think it was Stephen Holder, who's a reporter for the covers of Colts. Eberflus is known as a cover 2 Tampa 2 guy, but he played at 64% of his defense last year in man coverage. So you're going to need a lot of these guys, and we talked about already. They're going to be in nickel a lot, about 85% of the time, according to Coach Eberflus. And if you're going to be playing 64% man, you're going to need guys to be able to cover man to man, right? So guys like McDuffie or Gordon or somebody even like Emerson here, guys that can get in and get into the grill of a receiver and kind of slow them down at the line of scrimmage. Whether it's inside the slot in McDuffie's case or it's outside like Gordon and Emerson we're talking about here. I think these are guys that are going to be very, very useful on this defense. And again, to go back to the original question, I have no concerns about Jalen Johnson.
Let's think about where he came from, guys. He came from Utah. Kyle Whittingham. You know what type of football that guy preaches? Toughness and physicality. Go watch any Utah game from the past 10 years. All you're going to see is dudes flying onto the ball and hitting people. I have zero question about Jalen Johnson's toughness.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We've got Andrew Booth up now. Niel, take it away.
Andrew Booth, I think he might be one of my favorite corners in his class. A guy that, kind of like McDuffie a little bit, where, I feel like there's a lot of first-round projections on him, but he could be one of those guys that falls unceremoniously to the second round. Andrew Booth was a guy that I first got my eyes on as it was either sophomore or junior in high school. Another one of these guys that was kind of unrefined, but had all the tools, all the traits, everything that you look for kind of like a lump of Play-Doh, and you just mold him into what you want him to be. Came into the combine at 6 foot 194, measuring 9 almost a half hands, 31 and a half arms. Did not do all the combine testing because he strained his quad, during warm-ups, and he ended up needing surgery, which threw him out for also his pro day. And so we're not going to get actual times on him. He is a sub 4.5 kid, as I remember, from his high school testing days. He's fast enough. He's explosive enough. He is athletic enough in everything that you want. Last year, 39 tackles, 3 picks, 5 passes defense, was a 2021 first team all ACC kid in his first year as a full starter. Now, I mean, remember, Clemson, that's kind of one of those Alabama programs that just churns kids in and out. The fact that he's only a first 1 year starter does not mean a damn thing, because he played all 3 years that he was there. He was a 3-year contributor, first 1 year starter. To me here, he's a fluid, twitchy athlete, really laterally quick, triggers hard, tackles through the ball carrier, does really well in open field, has some spider qualities. I call these guys spiders, the guys that feel like they're in 3 places in one time. Call them spiders. He's got some of these spider qualities. One of the games I watched was that Georgia game. First quarter, sees a play, attacks a block, goes lateral, makes open field tackle on James Cook. He does well in anticipation, as you see in the South Carolina game, another game that I watched. Competes in jump ball situations. And I mean, outside of everything that he does on the field, he's an ACC honor roll kid. He's intelligent. He brings leadership, characteristics. Has all the intangibles. A lot of people are just unfoundedly saying that he has football IQ issues, which I think is absolutely freaking ridiculous. I feel like maybe some ways of trying to get him to drop a little bit so the teams can score on a first rounder guy. But to me, this is another kid that when we talk about the system, guys that they have the athleticism to drop, plant, drive, attack, hit, and tackle. This kid is kind of like halfway a prototype into what you want in this defense. I've been loving Andrew Booth for 6 years now, and if the Bears could figure out a way to land this kid, I'd be absolutely ecstatic.
Stephen is right about Booth having sports hernia surgery. It was reported a day ago, but he is expected to be ready for training camp. Does that concern you guys at all when somebody gets a sports hernia surgery? And I don't know for sure if it was this month, but it was reported a day ago. No,
that's what I was saying. Like, when he was warming up for the combine, he had it was actually a quad. I guess it turned into a sports hernia, but he went out with a suspected quad injury that ended up putting him on the surgical block. So to me, I mean, if it's not an ACL, if it's not something debilitating that's going to take him an entire year to recover, I'm fine with it, because again, he is one of those guys that has the innate natural athletic traits that you want in a corner. He has the physicality and the mindset you want in the corner. A couple guys that we talked about tonight, guys, like, these are guys with linebacker mindsets playing on the outside edge. And I think a lot of times we have been grossly missing this, and we've been complaining about it and bitching about it. And there's some guys on the board right now that have this kind of mindset. They'll come down the hill and smack somebody in the mouth. And this kid is one of those types of kids. He's a sure tackler. He's not afraid to get physical. He's going to be, he's going to be, recovering from, the sports hernia for a few months. But, when he's ready to go, he's going to be a bat out of hell.
Good stuff. Any thoughts on Booth, Mr. Shimon?
Yeah, for me, actually, guys, you guys are gonna think I'm not as high on Booth as majority of the people are. First of all, the things I love about him, love the size, I love the twitchiness. Niel's right, and you saw some of those highlights. I mean, his ability to come off, plant, click his heels, and come downhill and be aggressive. You love that. You love seeing it on tape. But what concerns me is his coverage skills. Now, he's only been a 2-year starter, so there's some development there. But I think he gets lost way too much in terms of downfield coverage. So that's something that, again, could you coach it up? Sure. But if you're talking about a guy that you want at pick 39 or probably pick 48, where you can come in and be a starter, I just don't know if he's ready to be a starter. Now, the sports hernia is a setback. It's not a huge thing. It's probably going to maybe slow down his development in terms of getting in OTAs and all that stuff. But they don't do much work. Hopefully, as long as he's ready to go up by training camp, he should be fine. But love the physicality, love the size, love the twitchiness he shows in there. But you need to coach him up. And again, it's some of that is maybe lack of experience. But it's just I don't know how much of an impact he'd be able to have for you day one, week one, if you need him to start. So that's where I'm not as high on the kid. But everything else Niel touched on is accurate. And we just saw, like I said, those clips right there, the way he comes downhill. It's just like a Mack truck coming down. And again, we're going to be talking about the zone defense a lot, guys. We're going to be off coverage. You got to plant, click, and hit anything that's underneath. And this guy can do it. And if you're looking for that, and now if you're as the Bears staff and say, bring this kid in, give me that size, give me that twitchiness, I'll coach him up. If you're a DB coach, say I'll coach this kid up. Then that's where you go. You rely on your coaches. But if you're looking for him to come in and start day one, you might be asking for too much from the kid.
One of the area scouts on NFL.com says that he is kind of a Lovie Smith cornerback. They play a lot of shell coverages at Clemson, but he has better twitch and speed than the type of cornerbacks you see in that cover two, Lovie Smith.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly what we said. That cover two, that zones, and again, this is a guy that twitchiness to be able to, like I said, drive on that ball carrier and be able to, tackle, be physical tackle through the ball carrier is what I like to call it. He gives you that kind of stuff, but in terms of being able to, rely on him to be, get downfield coverage all the time. Again, coach him up. Yeah, he could probably develop him, but day one starter, it's not that high in my book.
Okay. Let's move on to Christian Harris, Niel. What do you got on him?
Oh, Christian Harris. So, I mean, in terms of linebacker, I wasn't actually planning on getting him tonight, but, it's also an interesting discussion because
do you want to skip him? Do you want to skip him?
We brought up we brought up linebacker in the beginning of the show, and I think that's an interesting discussion for the sense of you're looking at our roster, looking at our depth. We signed Morrow to a 1-year contract. We got a couple of special teams guys in the second string on the roster right now, alongside Roquan Harris. I'm kind of thinking
Smith.
that, or Roquan Smith. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Christian Harris, with a Freudian slip. Is that what that's called?
Yes, exactly.
But I'm kind of thinking that if you have a chance on day 3 to get a kid like this, you have to take, and I'll tell you why. And this is another one of those kids that, the first time I saw him was his sophomore or junior year in high school, wherever the case may be. Christian Harris was a dude that played just about every position on the damn field. Right? He played corner, he played safety, he played backer, he played edge rusher on offense, he played tailback and receiver and tight end, and he even threw a couple passes.
He returned kicks as well.
Kicks. At just about that size, guys. That 226 is not new. He was actually about 230, 240 in high school, and he actually leaned him up in order to be able to play inside linebacker at Alabama. The kid is really, really unique and interesting, and he does a lot of things on tape that you love. You look at his measurables, 6'4.5", 226. The length and everything is there. Last year 79 tackles, 12.5 for loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 passes broken up, 2 forced fumbles. He shows quick trigger. He floats well in space. He can cover, even though he's not necessarily asked to do much of that. At Alabama, they play those guys close to the line. They blitz them a lot. The thing about Christian Harris is that, you're looking for a guy that runs really well. And I didn't have his, I can't remember what it showed for his 40. He's like 4.46, and explosive as hell as well in the broad and vert and everything else. But you're looking for a guy that kind of resembles the way that Brian Urlacher plays in space, the way he floats around the field, the way that he spikes the ball, the way that he hits guys. And Christian Harris is about as close as you can get to that for my money in this draft. I know a lot of guys love the Anderson kid from Montana State. They love the Muma kid from Wyoming. To me, those guys are down the line dudes that need a lot of development. You could probably get them, mid day 3. They're getting a lot of, day 1, day 2 love, which I think is complete horseshit. Those guys aren't ready. If you want a guy that's ready to come in and play the middle linebacker position right now, I think Christian Harris is the guy. And, again, the reason why, the size, the versatility, the speed, the athleticism, and the strength, he does a lot of things on tape that you love. And again, you don't see him in coverage as much as you'd like to get a full evaluation of what he does in pass sets, but in pass coverages. But, when we see him move in space, he's a guy that can get it done. And the few clips that you do see him actually cover guys, he's on the hip pocket. He's making plays on the ball. I mean, like I said, for my money, he's about as close to Urlacher as you can get in this draft. And if you have a chance to get him in day 2, I'm not saying that you have to take him. I'm saying you absolutely have to think about it. If he's sitting there at 39, 48, or if he drops all the way down to the 70s, you don't have to take him. You certainly have to think about it.
Yeah, because I've seen him projected as a first-round pick. So if he drops that far, you definitely got to give that some thought.
Yeah, I mean, with all the holes that we have, I mean, shit, guys, you know, we got a lot of plugs to put into the wall here. But I mean, again, with Morrow only on 1-year deal and a bunch of backups, you know, it'd be nice to have your Mike linebacker for the next 10 years once again, just like he had Urlacher. So I'm just saying, I just throw it out there for discussion.
Yeah, for me, I absolutely love this kid. I absolutely love this kid. Earlier, Niel said you think he's going to be available in day 3. He's not going to be available day 3. This guy's going to go.
You always say I'm saying day 3. I'm saying round 3.
Thought. Oh, okay. He's not going to be available round 3. He's not going to be available round 3. He's going to be.
I said if he happens to be available in the 70s, maybe.
This kid is a superstar in the making. You know, it's funny because this kid started as a freshman for Nick Saban, and Niel touched on some of his athletic abilities. You know, high school was a safety, corner, linebacker, return kicks, receiver, everything. He's a special talent, and you know, athletic linebacker, quick feet, can flow, chase laterally. Good speed, terrific closing burst. You saw some of these on the late blitzes. You know, him and Roquan, a combination of those two on blitzes is lethal in my opinion. High effort player. You know, combines that his athletic ability with this speed and makes special plays. You know, Don Burr made a comment there in terms of he needs to learn how to shed. He gets washed away. Don, put on that Georgia game. Watch him as he's taking on that lineman, and he's actually being pushed to the ground as he's falling on his ass. He still makes a tackle on the running back. So this kid has that special type of quality. You know, I just don't know if the Bears are going to draft a linebacker. That's the only thing. And Niel touched on some of the other games, the Anderson kid and the Muma kid. Those guys are just being hyped up by the 4-letter network in terms of these guys because they're good athletes, yeah, but they're nowhere near the type of impact defensive players this kid Christian Harris is going to be. So if the Bears came out of that pick 39 and 48, it might not be a high priority at this point right now because they signed more. But like Niel touched on it, it's just a 1-year deal. This kid combined with Roquan Smith. Holy cows. I mean, that kid, a lot of Alabama linebackers get all this hype from Ragland to who was the kid that the Niners drafted in the first round? I forgot his name. The kid from Alabama. Reuben Foster. All these guys get these hyped up. And this kid started as a freshman. I just feel like he's not being hyped up anywhere near to what he can be in terms of the next level. You talk about coverage. I see him carry a linebacker, a tight end out of down the seam. So I think he can cover. He's got the athletic ability to be able to cover. Kid played safety in high school, so he's got some coverage ability. I see him come out and cover running backs in the flat. So I mean, this is nothing. There's nothing on the field that I can't see. The only thing maybe he's not an elite pass rusher, but he still had 10 sacks in his career, 5.5 sacks last year at Alabama. So, I think he gets that more from effort, from his high motor, and just from his athletic ability. His speed, his burst to the ball. So, again, this kid is a hell of a player. I think this guy is going to be a starter day 1, possibly, depending on which system you bring him in. I think this guy is going to be a guy that 10 years from now, you're going to see one of the better linebackers in the NFL. So.
Don says that it's difficult to assess Alabama linebackers because their defensive tackles make it, they swallow up people and make it easier for those Bama backers. You guys want to comment on that?
Well, Don, okay, so Danny brought up Reuben Foster, perfect example. Reuben Foster, if you actually watch the All-22 and you look at the way that he moves, his body type and his athletic traits, he says Mike linebacker all the way, which doesn't have any longevity in the NFL anymore. You're basically a 1, maybe 2 down player at that point. If you look at the way Christian Harris is built, the way he moves, and especially if you're on my end, I was able to see him during the recruiting process when he's playing 35 different positions on the field. Come up through Alabama, start as a freshman, play, or did you say start or play as a freshman, Danny?
He started as a freshman. He's a 3-year starter. He's a junior.
So he starts as a freshman in Alabama and becomes an impact player. Watch the way that he moves on tape. Watch the way that he covers. Watch the way that he's lateral in space. Watch the way that he spikes the football. They're two 100% different types of players. Yeah, I get that Alabama has the types of defensive linemen that a lot of NFL teams will love to just go ahead and like rack their entire defensive line with them. But to be honest, this past year they didn't have the same types of dudes they had in years past. Like he had to make more plays on his own. I'm not saying he had to go ahead and create stops on his own. but you also have to look at these guys in terms of what you see on film, what they give you. You can't make the film up. It's not like you can go ahead and create highlights, right? So you just got to take the way these guys move and how they test and what they look like, their body types, and take it for what it is. What you see with Christian Harris is an elite athlete that has a ton of versatility, that has a ton of toughness, and the way that he played football at Alabama, which is the same way as the way that he played football in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in high school. He's been the same kid for life. You love to have that kid in your locker room and on your field, being able to cover at 230 pounds. Man,
we just saw a clip there where there was two linebackers sent in that A gap, right? What they call the mug look. Remember Lovie Smith and Rod Marinelli came up with that when they sent Urlacher and Lance Briggs. They called it the mug look, where they came up and they mugged the A gap, and then they don't know if they drop back, if they're coming. Imagine bringing Christian Harris and Roquan Smith with their athletic ability, their speed, and that mug look. Yeah. That's going to terrorize NFL quarterbacks, not knowing what's going to happen in terms of they're coming, they're not coming in terms of their speed, athletic ability. So if you get that again, I don't know if the Bears are going to draft a linebacker that high. But I think if they do make this, pick at this selection being Christian Harris, I think he's a surefire, hit there in terms of that second round pick. I just don't know if it fills an immediate need now because of the Morrow sign, but he is, eventually going to be a starter in this league for sure.
Very good. Let's move on to our last eval of the night. It is Alontae Taylor.
I'm saving him for later, Aldo.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's start answering some questions from people in the chat room. Let's see what we got here. I have thoughts on Troy Anderson from Leo Factor.
we just talked about it. He's an athletic linebacker. The school drops. What school is he from?
Montana State.
Montana State. He's a guy that's a developmental kid, shows good athletic traits. Again, he's a guy that fits the system. But how much of an impact he's going to have, and how much of a need do the Bears now foresee themselves having? Using. I think he's more of a day 3 pick. So he could be a guy that could slide down there in the area if they're looking for a depth linebacker. That's an intriguing name to keep an eye on. He had a good week at Senior Bowl as well. So again, him and Muma are these athletic type of linebackers that move well in space. But like with Muma, I think his numbers are widely overblown. I think I see him making a lot of tackles 5-10 yards down the field. He's not a real big impact guy. He covers as hell out of the as a linebacker. Does a nice job of covering tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. I saw Muma run step for step with the running back who's running a wheel route out of the backfield. So that's impressive. But in terms of being the type of impact players that Christian Harris is going to be, they're not in this class.
Yeah. Troy Anderson kind of reminds me of a safety that hasn't quite turned into a linebacker yet. He's still a tweener in terms of what he's good at and how he plays. I mean, I love his effort and his competitive spirit. He gets a participation trophy in my mind. Watching his game film, it made me want to turn it off in one quarter, guys. I mean, I swear to God, like I've never seen a less physical linebacker that's projected as high as he is. He gets easily blocked by receivers. He can't shed. He can run to the ball, and he could do like really athletic stuff in the open field. But damn, like he needs a lot of work. I'm not ready to take this guy in day 1, day 2. I'm not ready to take him in the early part of day 3. I'm ready to take him probably 6 or 7, sit him on special teams for like 3 or 4 years, and see if he can actually be a contributor on defense. This guy's getting way too much hype for what he's capable of doing right now. And in terms of Muma, yeah, I mean he's definitely more he's definitely readier. What's the correct English on that? I don't know.
Ready.
He's better apt to play than Troy Anderson is, but still another guy that still has a lot of season to be put on the chicken, guys. I mean, these aren't day 1, day 2 guys. These are developmental dudes. You take in day 3 with whatever excess picks you have, which the Bears don't have. And so I really don't think that they should be in the business of taking either one of these guys, because you need difference makers immediately. And like I said, way too many holes to plug, way too many picks to do it with.
The topic of trading Robert Quinn is something we've talked about in previous shows, but it's come up again in the chat, and I'd like your latest thoughts on potentially acquiring a couple of picks in exchange for Quinn.
Well, Ryan Poles was asked about it specifically at the owners meeting, and he didn't really put a throwing water on the fire there. He just kind of said, "Well, it hasn't come up." Not saying that we're not trading him or anything like that. That he's a vital piece of Eberflus's defense. So that tells me that, hey, if you guys want Robert Quinn, if you're a team out there that feels like you're a Robert Quinn or pass rusher away from being a Super Bowl contender, come calling, because I need picks. And that's basically what he told us. And I think, I thought Eberflus would want to come in and have both Mack and Quinn and see what his defense could do. But obviously, they're going, with youth here, and they're going to give Gibson a shot. We talked about edge rushers as a position in this draft that's got some depth as well there. So if you acquire extra picks, you could probably utilize one of those picks on another edge rusher. Now you got the kid Muhammad from the Colts as well as a free agent, so he knows the system already. So I could see them going that route and maybe trading Robert Quinn. So we discussed on our last show. I think someone, if you get a second or a fourth for him, would you do it? And the way Ryan Poles talked about it, the way his cryptic message was, I think he'd do it for that in a heartbeat. So just stay tuned. Let's see what happens. I think the Cowboys might come sniffing. The Chiefs look like they're loading up in terms of, they got some of that salary cap money now with Tyreek Hill gone. I think they might go load up on defense a little bit, trying to equal their salary cap there, and give some money on the defensive side where they've been hurting a lot. There's some questions about Frank Clark in terms of KC's, his future there. So a guy like Robert Quinn would nicely in that, Steve Spagnuolo defense. So, just keep an eye there. They got multiple picks. The Chiefs do. Obviously, there's a connection with Ryan Poles and Brett Veach. So you never know. That could be something that could transpire, during the draft as well.
Well, hey, Neil, what do you think about bringing Kwiatkowski back as the Sam? Cliff Victoria asked the question.
Yeah, he was kind of a fan favorite, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. He did play his ass off, and I'm not sure if I like him as Sam as much as I did as a Mike, but to be honest with you, I was kind of upset to see him go, because he was one of those play hard, try hard guys, physical and tough, gave you awesome special teams value. As what was he, about 6'1", 6'2", 240?
No more than that. Yeah.
240, 250, somewhere around there. I mean, I don't know. I never really thought too much about it, to be honest with you. I didn't really think that he was an option.
Well, he's a free agent. He's still out there on the street. Danny, any thoughts?
He doesn't fit the system. He's not a player in this. And the Sam linebacker is going to be able to. Someone's going to be able to cover guys that's going to probably be at the line of scrimmage and maybe take tight ends down the seam. So we talked about Kwiatkowski when he was here with the Bears. His issues were coverage. Being able to be anything in terms of in pass coverage. He's not. He's a physical guy at the line of scrimmage. A guy that comes up and is physical and his run fits. But in terms of being a Sam linebacker in the system, I don't think he fits.
Very good. All right. Well, a few more questions. Next week, we have to talk about Logan Hall, because he keeps coming up and up.
I have talked about Logan Hall. I've broken him down.
Oh, that's right. In the very first show.
My defense tackle. Yeah.
He's in the first round.
If you guys just listen to me, I swear, we fixed the Bears. If you guys would just listen to me.
That's right. We may have to do I might have to.
If we listen to Danny, we'd have Sam. Hook'em Danny would have Sam Ellinger as our quarterback. Right?
I didn't say pick him over Justin Fields. I did not say that.
You love to
Alex wants to know: would any of you guys take David Ojabo in the second round? And I would definitely take Damon Clark in the fifth. Your thoughts?
Damon Clark is interesting. He was a guy that, before the pre-draft process, was being talked about on day 1 and day 2, and now he's kind of fallen all the way to day 3, and that's something I want to really look into before I really talk about it. I mean, you look at some of the numbers that he's put up and his size, and I mean what he meant to LSU. He's an interesting case that I want to look more into, why he's dropping and why he's falls so hard. David Ojabo, I mean, explosive. That's all I can say about that. To me, he's definitely a day 2 guy. I don't think he's going to go day 1. I think he's going to be a day 2 guy, and you got to think about that one as well. We could probably break him down in the next show.
Mm-hmm. Next, you have a thought on that, Danny?
Yeah, for me, Ojabo is an outside linebacker in a 3-4. I don't see him as a hand in the ground defensive end at this level. I think that's a better fit for him. Guy, keep him, have him rush from that 2-point stance. Just bring that speed, the explosiveness off the edge. So I think a 3-4 team will get a nice pick there. He might have to redshirt his first year. We'll see how that goes with that torn Achilles. But I just don't see him as a guy. You put a hand in the ground, and because if you do, you got to put some weight on him. And then if you put weight on him, does that affect his explosiveness and get off at the line of scrimmage? So I don't see that as a fit in this system particularly. But if it was the previous system under Nagy, then yes, I'd love to take a chance on the kid from Michigan. So
what's his
Damone
weight
Clark
right now? What's his weight at right now? What's his?
I thought it was in the 250s or something like that. I believe it was. I don't know if he did even participate at the combine. I'm not sure.
I think it's still Andrew Booth weighed in but didn't participate. I'm sure these guys at least weighed in, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can check it up online, but I think it was in the 250 range, if I'm not mistaken, for David Jabu. But anyway, I see him more as an outside linebacker. I don't see him as a hand in the ground defensive end. So even in the combine that I'm doing those outside linebacker skills drills as well. So I just don't see him fitting here in this particular defense.
So I want to know if you guys do any mock draft simulations for the Bears on your off time, like you guys have off time.
Shit.
But it's a good question. Do you guys doing any mocks?
I don't believe in mock drafts right now because there's a lot of things right now that just up in the air. There's a lot of things that are being put out there. It's lying season, as you've heard Greg Gabriel say before in these very airwaves, and I've said before, you don't believe anything that's out there. So I don't. The closer we get to the draft, maybe like a week, then you start hearing some things of guys are rising and guys that are falling, but. I think just doing a mock draft right now would be, fruitless in my opinion. I just don't find anything out of them, any sort of information. The only thing is some of the guys, like the guys I respect, like Kuiper, these guys that have been around the league for a long, Andrew, Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, these guys that have contacts. What you want to see from them is guys, the consensus that they're getting from because these guys all go to these, the guys they know in the league, scouts, and they go to general managers, and they got to get a consensus in terms of who's going to be in the first round, not necessarily player and team matchup, but just guys that are going to be in the first round. Then you kind of see what the group thinking is here with the NFL scouts in terms of guys that are potentially going to be first round grades.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I got another question or two. Alex Sims wants to know, would Danny and Niel take Zylan McCollum in the third, the best slot in the draft, in his opinion? I know, Niel, you're prepared to talk about Zion next week, perhaps, right?
Yeah, we'll bring him up next week, and I'll give you all my thoughts then.
Okay. Any teasers, Danny, on your thoughts for next week on Zion?
No, we'll have the tape talk for Zion next week. We'll
all right. Are you guys happy if our offensive tackles turn out to be Tevin and Borum? Cliff Victoria wants to know.
No, hell no. And this is something that's chapped my ass for a while now, and I just don't know what people keep saying that Tevin Jenkins or Larry Borum's going to play left tackle. We got Larry Borum. Hats off. He impressed me last year at right tackle. If you want to give him a shot at right tackle, fine. You want to move Tevin Jenkins in at right guard, fine. But you need a left tackle, guys. You need a veteran left tackle, because I don't think you can get any of these top offensive tackles in terms of the draft, right? There are a couple of guys that they're in the top of the second round that we've kind of, we've highlighted here in the show. The kid from Ohio State, Petit Ferrer, is a guy that I really like in terms of a potential second round target there. But again, is he going to be coming in and be able to start day one? Who knows? But I just hope there's a plan with Brian Poles and the Bears in terms of what they're going to do at left tackle. Veteran free agency is dwindling down. I know not a lot of guys out there. The guy I keep mentioning is Dwayne Brown. I think he's in his mid-30s, so I think he's a guy that could come in possibly for a short-term deal while you get a developmental type of tackle, whether second or third round, and you kind of let him kind of learn the ropes from Dwayne Brown. But if you're going out next year and you're starting either Tevin Jenkins or Larry Borum on left tackle, I hope Justin Fields is not your quarterback. I hope you put in Trevor Siemian in there, because I do not want to see Justin Fields get his head taken off.
Hey guys, we spent an entire season on the show talking about how Tevin Jenkins was not a left tackle in this league, and man, I feel like a broken record every time we have to talk about this shit. To be honest with you, He's a right guard is what he is, and then if we stick him there at right guard, if we have our right guard tied up with Tevin Jenkins, I'd be great with that. But I do not want him on the edges. Just personally, I just don't feel like he has that kind of elite athletic ability on the outside to stick with elite edge rushers. It's not there. It's on the tape.
Somebody asked about Zach Tom, and that's one of Danny's guys from a previous show. I'll tell you what, all of these guys that you're asking about that we've covered already on previous shows, we will do an update on all of those guys as we get a little closer to the draft. All of that video has been saved, and everyone's kept their notes. So we'll go through all those guys. We still have a lot of fresh talent to evaluate over the next few weeks. Let me see if I can squeeze in another question or two. Jordan Silveria, Danny Niel, thoughts on Drake Jackson as a 4-3 end to succeed Quinn?
Drake Jackson, the kid from USC, very disappointing. I think I expected more from him throughout his career. He's a base 4-3 end, so I think he's a guy that could come in and obviously play in the system with the hand on the ground. I just don't know in terms of that explosiveness, that the ability to be a consistent pass rusher. But definitely a guy that you can probably get in. I would say day 3, Neil, is where do you have currently Drake Jackson in your rankings?
I need to honestly, watch more of him before I feel good about where I put him.
But he's definitely a guy that could fit the system. A guy that I see more of like a base end right now. A guy that I really expected more of, if you will, from his career at USC. So, maybe a guy that could drop just because of the expectations that were placed on the kid coming out of high school.
There's no chance Jason Peters is coming back, right?
Why not, man? I mean, it's that, or do you want, Tevin Jenkins playing left tackle for you?
Well, it was interesting. Somebody in the chat mentioned it, and I forgot to star it because I can't find it right now. Somebody mentioned that Poles did indeed say that they were going to look at Borum at left tackle and Jenkins at right tackle because those were their positions in college. So it almost sounded, and again, I didn't hear the audio, but reading in between the lines when I read the different reports, it almost sounded like the idea of Jenkins at left tackle was not appealing to him. And the idea of Larry Borum was one that he would entertain. Now, I do think that, you don't believe anybody nowadays a month out of the draft. Poles has gotten some kudos for being transparent about a few things, but he's not going to do any evaluations of players and what their draft plans will be. But he did say that Borum at left tackle and Jenkins at right tackle is something that they want to look at, is I think how he phrased it. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Well, that doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement to me. It doesn't say hey, yeah, we believe in these guys. We think they can do the job. We're gonna bring competition. No, it just says we'll look at it. It's basically just saying, hey, if we strike out on all our options, we'll go ahead and give these guys a shot. But that's not our plan going into the season, which gives me hope.
Yep. Yeah. Borum was a right tackle. Excuse me, I just answering this question real quickly. Borum was a right tackle with the Bears, but he played both tackle positions in college. Am I right on that, guys?
And guard as well, yes.
And guard. Okay. Sorry, Neil, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I mean, in terms of us being fans of this franchise, do you want everybody to go out and reveal the battle plans to the world?
No.
Honest question. Not. Because there's plenty of people out there that are pissed because Poles isn't doing this, Poles isn't doing that, he isn't saying this, he isn't saying that. Mm-hmm. Guys, they have the aces up their sleeves. They have kings and queens in their deck. Like they're just let them do their jobs, right? Like let's not we've only just gotten out of the owners meetings,
mm-hmm.
which is another reason why you didn't see a whole lot of transactions this week, is because that typically doesn't happen the week of owners meetings.
Well, the other thing is,
for the record, bringing in Kari Blasingame and Crookshank brings a lot more physicality to this roster, and I love the shit out of that. Random thought.
Well, the other thing was the big upheaval over them the Buffalo Bills matching the Bates contract, and it's like, and everyone's like, oh, the Bears blew this one. Well, up until 3 days ago, no one knew who Ryan Bates was.
Right.
This is a guy that's only started 4 career games, 2 playoff games. Is he a promising prospect? Sure. But is he a sure thing? No. Would have been nice to get him. Sure. It'd be nice to have them and put him in a right guard and see what he does there. But then, what are you telling me if Bates is your right guard? Tevin Jenkins is either a right tackle or is he a backup? Because I sure hope they don't put him on left tackle. So, that's the thing is like, let the offseason go through, because now, once the draft is done, we're going to see more veterans get cut, guys. So, just keep that in mind as well. There's going to be more veterans going to be available on the street in terms of, and maybe that's where Ryan Poles can go ahead and pounce on some of those guys, post draft and fill some of these needs. Obviously, there are a lot of needs on this team. We touched on it earlier. Maybe they can re-sign Larry Ogunjobi to a team friendly deal, and that adds him now with Justin Jones, with Edwards, with Angelo Blackson, and that defensive tackle. Now you maybe take that position, that need off the table, and now you can get a linebacker like a David Harris, or maybe you can get a position that you don't think you needed. Maybe maybe a safety can come in here as well. So we'll see how it goes, but it's not over till it's what. First week of September, second week of September, whenever the season kicks off. So, let's just give these guys some time. And obviously, we've discussed it before here on the show. It's the plan is obvious. They're trying to put together their foundation. They're trying to put together their system. They're trying to get their culture in here, if you will. And yeah, it might be only 6 or 7 wins this year, but you know what they're doing? They're trying to get comp picks for next year by not signing these big time free agents. They're cognizant of who they give money to and how they give money to and how they spend it. They're not out there first day, second day signing these big players. Minus Larry Ogunjobi. They are going to get comp picks. They are also saving a lot of they're taking a big hit this year in terms of dead cash or dead money on their cap, so that next year they're going to have a huge chunk of cap space. So a full boat plus extra picks next year, plus you're going to have your pick of the litter in terms of free agency, because you're going to have a shit ton of money. So I think they're just kind of trying to get everything settled and get their programming, get and see what they have here on hand. Get players on the grass. We've heard it before, right? Just get these players on the grass. Let's see what we got, and then we build from there. I think next year's offseason is where a lot of these fans that are upset and pissed off this year are going to be, very, 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 very happy next year.
We're gonna have a ton of money to spend next year.
Yeah,
and guys, and look at the receivers that are available next year. I think correct me if I'm wrong, guys. AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, guy. I think McLaurin, if he's not signed a contract extension, these all guys are going into the final year of their contracts. Sure, they could be franchised. Yes, we understand that, but not, some of these guys are going to be able to fall through the cracks, and you could have a shot at getting one of those guys potentially.
Yeah. And I mean, just to build off what you said, Danny, for everyone that's watching and listening, it's not easy to turn over a roster, a locker room, not only in terms of players, athleticism, physicality, but also in terms of culture and mindset and effort and want-to and all those different types of things. And all that goes hand in hand in winning. I've been through, some roster upheavals in my career. And, the thing about it is that you not only have to take what's currently there and, hit the reset button, but also figure out the right types of guys to gel with what you currently have, how the reset button hits, and have that all moving forward, harmoniously and in perfect, synchronization. And, so this is a lot. What I'm getting is it's a lot tougher than it seems. It's not just, playing Madden. You go into the off season, you throw numbers, you hit the X button and rock and roll, and away you go. Like this does take a lot of strategy, a lot of work, a lot of really in-depth analysis, character study, background checks, everything else. The guy's doing his due diligence. Let's just not go ahead and just. Could you please talk about a punter? You guys don't like Ryan? What's wrong with Ryan? We just signed a punter. What's wrong with that guy? The point is that this is a lot. It's a lot harder than it just seems. It's not just a Madden game. So to give the guy some patience, he's doing a good job. He's not throwing out Mike Glennon contracts. All right, I think we're still paying for that, aren't we? Yes. He's still on our payroll, I think, which is absolutely absurd.
Mm-hmm.
He's not shooting the dice well above his means right now, and that's what you got to be absolutely happy about. Is that he's not being stupid with his resources. He's being smart with his resources. Ryan Pace already left us with the bare cupboard, not only with the roster, but in terms of the capital. And so, give the guy some patience. Let him do his job. Don't overly criticize him. First year GM, he's doing it the right way. Promise you guys. But the three of us, we all feel he's doing it the right way, and it's going to benefit.
The one thing I like what Poles has said every time he's had a chance to speak to the media, I think it was like 3 or 4 times, handful of times right now, is emphasis on the offensive and defensive line. And that's what I've been preaching here for a couple of years now, is everything gets built on an offensive defensive line. And specifically, he wants nasty SOBs on the offensive line. Both Niel and I love guys that are just nasty, that play within the rules. But, maybe extend that tackle, maybe extend that block, maybe finish that block. And when they got the guy on the ground, kind of, bury him really, real badly. Like, those are the kind of guys you want on your team. That's what Absolutely. I think Bates was going to be one of those guys as well, potentially. So, he has an idea in terms of how to build that offensive line. That's where I just can't see him going into a season with Justin Fields putting Tevin Jenkins at left tackle. I just don't see it. I hope I hope he goes and gets somebody to play a left tackle for us, because I just do not see him trusting Tevin Jenkins. Now, Jenkins has some of that, physicality, some of that nastiness, if you will. I just doesn't have the ability, I think, to play left tackle. You put him at right guard, go ahead. Let's go and move him and see what happens there. But, just got to bring in that left tackle is something that just sticks out to me on the roster. And until that position is filled with a veteran or a draft pick or both, preferably both, I'm not gonna rest. I'm gonna be fearful. I'm gonna be sweating until I know that position is taken care of.
I think the most important thing you said, though, is that Poles has a plan, right?
Yeah.
How many times over the past 4 or so years did we think that Ryan Pace had a plan? It felt like kind of like hodgepodge, helter skelter, right? Like it drove me crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's funny was Ryan Pace goes to Atlanta, and all of a sudden they have a quarterback issue now.
He can't escape it. This has been an outstanding show, and as I said earlier today, this has been a hell of a day for me. Greg Gabriel at 9, Crosstown Crosstalk with Chuck Garfine and what's his first name? David Wills. And now this one. Oh, and by the way, in the middle of the day, I appeared on WGN News to talk about the Chicago Bears. And so head on over to, see where it is. Head on over to WGNnews.com or just hit the Twitter machine, and you will see me talking on their show called News Now Sports Talk, and get my thoughts on some of the Chicago Bears stuff. It actually made sense during that. I was refreshed and ready to go. So it was.
Look at you! You're big timing us now, huh?
Yeah, you guys will be on there too. He asked me, "Hey, if you got guys from your network who would be great guests," and I thought of you guys and a few other guys, because we got a lot of talent here at the Barroom Network, and
Barroom Network taking over the world, baby.
There you go. I love that mug too.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to stay on top of what we're doing here at the Barroom Network, just subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Twitter at Barroom Network. I will let you know what is happening in the world of the Barroom Network. We got a great new show coming up, the Mac and Reed Show. 2 guys who I was on their podcast 2 or 3 years ago. They took a break during the pandemic, and then I pounced on them as, hey, when you guys come back, I want you guys on the network. And they've agreed to come onto the network, and they'll be with us debuting their show pretty soon. So lots of great stuff. Let's just go around the table and get final thoughts. Dan, start with you. What do you want to share with us?
Yeah, man, like I said earlier in the show, when we opened up, I said, it's getting there, man. It's less than 30 days away. It's less than a month away in terms of the NFL draft. This is now where it's, it's getting nitty-gritty time. And now we're going to see some movement here. We're going to see some guys and narrowing down in terms of guys and prospects and positions that the Bears might go after. So hopefully, again, I think within the next week or so, I think they're going to pretty much shut down free agency and just kind of concentrate solely on the draft. And then after, obviously, we said earlier, after the draft is when the veterans then get cut from teams, obviously being replaced by draft picks. So then we're going to see another wave, if you will, of free agency. So just hunker down, stay here at the Barroom. We got you covered from wall to wall. We got all the breaking news, and like I said, Neil and I are going to be breaking down these prospects here. So when draft day comes here, and then the Bears make their picks, the Barroom Network is going to be giving Draft on Tap's going to be giving you information on all these players and how they fit in this scheme and how we projecting this roster going forward. So just keep it tuned here to the Barroom Network.
Yep. And on that note, You know, as always,
Aldo left us already. He's big time now, so you can't just.
he's probably off fraternizing with the WGN guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Going for drinks or something. Yeah, going for drinks
ripping
and something.
shots at the local watering hole, right?
Yeah, leaving us here.
As always, guys, thanks for coming in.
There he is.
There he is.
You guys are funny. Go ahead, Neil. Say goodbye to your fans.
No, just saying, as always, guys, thanks for coming in and interacting, and as always, comment and like and everything else on the the thing down here. I don't know where it's at. I think it's like right here. Usually it shows up. Like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Share with your friends. Again, we say it every week. You know, if there's somebody that you want us to take a look at, hit us up in the mentions, DM us, add us on Twitter, whatever the case may be, and let us know who you'd like to hear from or about, and we'll put it on the show, and give you what you're asking for. But Zion McCollum, definitely do him next week. Smash the like button, 100%. Hair Bear just gave us a massive shout out on Twitter, replying to like one of Max Markham's polls, asking about their favorite Chicago Bears podcast through me and Danny out there. So that's pretty badass. Appreciate you.
Hair Bear is awesome. He's always a big supporter of the show. We appreciate his support and his following. So thank you so much, Hair Bear.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that helps grow the show, guys. Like you guys gotta understand, like, this is only our second year doing this show in this format with the three of us. Mm-hmm. So anytime you got a chance to float us out there or give us some props or whatever the case may be, man, feel free to do that. We
Aaron Curran answered the call. Remember a couple weeks ago I called him out. He said he's going to come on, so maybe we can bring Aaron Curran on and we can talk some Kentucky football there with him. There's a couple of prospects that I got my eye on there in Kentucky. So
called Kentucky Special, huh? Day full of Kentucky football. We won't bust them up too bad about St. Peter's. Promise.
You should have heard Aaron Curran last Sunday's the Barfly Tailgate show. He did the first 20 minutes of the show on Wandale Robinson. You talk about a guy gushing over a gadget guy. Man, he loves him.
That's the thing. It's I like Randall Robinson's skill set as well. But yeah, exactly. He's 5'8", if that, and he's a specialty guy. He's a guy, day 3 guy. You kind of take a chance on and bring him in and put plays in on offense. He's not a guy that you want to necessarily target in day 1 or day 2 of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of receivers, guys, like what I want is a guy that's 6 foot 6'1" plus, 200, 210 plus, runs fast, jumps high, has great hands.
Tyquan Thornton, guys from Baylor. Keep an eye on that kid. Tyquan Thornton.
He's going to ascend a little bit. But I mean, that's the point, though, is that we spent way too long with a bunch of super midgets in that locker room. We can't have that anymore. We need some guys with size that can go out and make plays. Yeah. So that's really what I'm looking at from the receiver position. That's what I'm solely looking at, is guys that have size, that have speed, that have explosive traits, that can go out there and make plays, be difference makers, right? Be difference makers.
And the one thing, just this is not something that's obviously official, whatever, but I just, for all the Christian Watson fans, and I'm one of them, I have a feeling Christian Watson's team colors aren't going to change.
Oh my goodness. Greg Gabriel this morning said if he's available in round 1 when Kansas City is picking, you better believe. He says, I know Andy Reid. I worked with him for a year. I know that's Andy Reid's type of wide receiver. So.
I have a feeling he's going higher than that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. We talked about it. We highlighted him last week. We talked about that easy speed, the explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, to be able to get in phase with the corner and just take off and just burst away. That's what these guys want, and both the Green Bay and the Chiefs lost that. And you could tell with Green Bay, they didn't even sign Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So I thought that for sure they're going to sign him back once they got rid of Adams, but they didn't even let him go to the Chiefs. So you can tell. I think Green Bay is going to go hard at receivers this draft.
Mm-hmm. Watson dominated his pro day. I mean, I know it's the Underwear Olympics part 2, but it's not like the combine was a fluke, man. Like, he went ahead and absolutely
when your tape
the pro
matches
day.
Your numbers, when your tape matches your test numbers, that's when it makes you a hot prospect, and that's what Watson is right now.
And think about that. When we first started the show, we were thinking, okay, well, maybe, and that was before we went like deeper and got 20,000 leagues under the sea deep in the tape, right? We were thinking Watson might be on. Maybe he's a early day 3 guy, late day 2, and the more that we watched, the more that we fell in love with the kid. And then the numbers come in, and the combine performance comes in, and it's just now he's like this, man.
Ravi, yeah, you're getting overtime. Unfortunately, all those doesn't pay us overtime.
That's right. Yeah. You guys, I'm surprised you haven't reported me to the National Labor Relations Board. Slave labor. Scott's in the chat room. I promise we will talk either next week or in a couple of shows from now on Cameron Jurgens. He was wondering about him as a
oh shit, that was
day
that
three
on my
pickup.
list.
Very athletic offensive lineman. He's got
the guy that was doing leapfrogs at his pro day.
That's the guy.
That guy makes jerky, beef jerky, right? Or
jerky, beef jerky. This is
Beef jerky. That's right.
beef jerky.
Well, but he's a center. He's a center, and I think obviously they've gotten their center here with Patrick. So I think that they're not going to.
But it's a 2-year deal, so you might want to look at a guy like Cameron Jurgens to be an heir apparent. But yeah,
what about Sam Mustipher?
Well,
hell.
he's he is signed. He is on the roster. Who knows? Maybe a new coach can get him to
good backup.
Not get run over.
The other thing with Alec Pierce, guys, the guys we highlighted today in the show. Did you guys see who was running his pro day? What coach is running his pro day?
No.
The Bears receiver coach was running his pro day.
Oh, interesting.
Running him through the drills.
I wonder what Mike Fleury's doing nowadays. I'm sure
he's flexing in a mirror, some gym, trying to pick up chicks.
Jesus.
I could just see Mike Fleury in one of the gyms with the selfie in the mirror, taking pictures of himself and biceps, and just hey girls, sending I can see him sending junk pictures to girls. Hey, I used to coach for the Bears. Sucks.
Did I ever tell you
that is just mean spirited.
Yes,
it sucked, man. It's one of the worst receiver coaches I've ever seen in my life.
My Mike Fleury story is that I went to that Family Fest game, I think 3 years ago, and I got there early and I wanted to take some pictures up from the upper deck at Soldier Field. And lo and behold, there's Mike Fleury. But at the time, I thought, hey, that's Matt Nagy. And so I go up there with my camera and I'm trying to get an interview with Matt Nagy. And he looks at me and says, and then he looks at the people he's with. He goes, this guy thinks I'm Nagy. He walks away from me. I'm like, oh,
wow,
shit.
so he's kind of
I'm surprised he didn't flex, but see these biceps?
I'm not surprised too. All right, everybody. That's our show for tonight. Let everybody know Draft on Top on Thursdays. We got the great Danny Sheeman and Neil Stopchinski on board to answer all your questions and let you know about players you may not know about, or if you do know about them, just get their take on that. We'll be back here next Thursday. Guys, you did a great job as always, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.